And we are live for week 6. How's it going, everyone? It is the best day of the week, and we are on London time again this week. We got a game coming up here very, very shortly in about 30 minutes. We got a game between the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. Year 5, week 6. Shout out to everybody on London time with me this morning already. Shout out to everyone who supported this live stream so far this season and in the past. It is going to be a very, very good morning. We were locked in on London time last week. Absolutely dialed in on that Browns game last week. Cashed the prop on the early time London game last week. That's how we got to start the week every single week when we have these London time games. I am going to prioritize, as always, the London time start sits on this London time game this morning. Am I starting Fields? Good evening, Nikki from Australia, Sutton or Ladd. We got some Broncos and Jets questions already flying in. Let me just run through the game really quickly, and then I will prioritize the London time start sits. All right, let's pull this up here. This is a game not projected to be very close between the Broncos and the Jets. I only have a few notes here. One is just why the books absolutely hate J.K. Dobbins. Can someone explain to me why the sports books hate J.K. Dobbins? I'm going to pull up the QB ranks here first. We'll hop to the QB ranks here on both live streams here for week 6. Got the ranks ready to go for every single position to help us with these London time start sits. I'm going to talk through this game really quickly. Then I will get to a ton of start sit questions relevant to this game before the game kicks off in about 30 minutes. If you guys are up on London time right now, shout out to you. All right, let's get to the Broncos side of this game. So the Broncos are 8.5, 7.5 point favorites in this game versus the Jets. I do not understand why the sports books aren't giving J.K. Dobbins any respect. I mean, absolutely no respect. Let's pull up the running back ranks here, actually, as I talk through this. It really does not make sense. There's been a few cases like this season where every single week it doesn't seem like there's adjustments for what we've seen from J.K. Dobbins. Every single week this season, J.K. Dobbins has at least 63 rushing yards. J.K. Dobbins has the 6th most rushing yards per game this season. He's at 80 rushing yards per game, averaging almost a touchdown per game. That's top 10 in the NFL as well. The only running backs with more rushing yards per game than J.K. Dobbins: Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Quinshad Judkins. That's it. End of list. He's got more rushing yards per game than Bijan Robinson, than Kyron Williams, than Breece Hall, Ashton Genty, Breece Hall. I already said Breece Hall. Josh Jacobs. J.K. Dobbins is averaging over 80 rushing yards per game. They still set his line in this game. It was at 65.5, 66.5, 67.5. I don't know how you don't look at that line and not think it's the best line for this game. So yeah, that's what we're riding here on London time. We were on the Judkins rushing line on London time last week. This week, it's got to be this J.K. Dobbins line. They're huge favorites. Tyler Bidet is out as well. Bidet is out, which is actually a pretty big deal for RJ Harvey. It definitely gives him some serious flex appeal in this game as a big favorite. The Jets are the only winless team left in the NFL. They're it. That's it. Every other team is won now. Somehow the Titans, they pulled out a win. So yeah, I think you got to start J.K. Dobbins. I think you have to take this prop too. If you're riding any prop in this game, I don't know how it's not J.K. Dobbins rushing, and I'm in on that one too. I just don't understand the line. The line should be like 79.5 yards. That's his average. They're huge favorites. It's not like the Jets defense has been that scary this season. Just a quick look at the matchup tab. They're allowing over 100 rushing yards per game to running backs. That's bottom 10 in the NFL. James Cook went for 132. Bucky Irving had 66. Devon Achane had almost 100. Javonte Williams last week had 135 rushing yards versus this Jets defense. Is Bo Nix good? Is like one of the bigger questions I still have this season right now. I think this should be an interesting test to answer that question. We've seen two good fantasy games from Bo Nix. One great fantasy game. That came against the Bengals, though. He doesn't get to play the Bengals every week. He does have a couple good matchups here coming up, though, really over the next 3 games. especially that one versus the Cowboys. But if you got just statistically, efficiency-wise, Bo Nix has been straight up bad. I mean, he's been bad. Is Bo Nix good? I think it's still an open question. But so far this season, guys, Bo Nix has been bad. He's had a couple good fantasy games. He's been over 7 yards per attempt once this season. He's at 6.3 yards per attempt. That's in the bottom 10 of the league. And his completion percentage is actually still pretty high, 65%. He's over 60% in most games. But man, Bo Nix has been bad. I mean, just straight up bad. And if you took out that game against the Bengals, again, you don't get to play the Bengals every single week. He's been under 245 passing yards every single week. He does have a passing touchdown every single game, but it feels a little bit like the sophomore slump is going on here for Bo Nix after a really encouraging rookie season. I don't feel great starting Bo Nix here against in a pretty decent matchup versus the Jets. The Jets have ranked bottom 10 against quarterbacks this season. Oh man, Troy Franklin or Jalen Warren. These are the start-sits that get me up in the morning, man. Troy Franklin versus Jalen Warren's a very good one. I said Jess here. Only winless team left. Okay, let's get to some of these start-sits. I'll pull up the rankings here on both lives. Let me know in the comments too which rankings you guys want to see next. No one is locked in on London time like me. All right, let's go to some of these start-sits. I want to get to some of these ones that were in here early. Sutton or Ladd, PPR, and my starting fields. You can definitely start Justin Fields. Let's actually jump to the QB ranks here quick and get the QB ones out of the way. We have Justin Fields ranked ahead of Bo Nix, just barely by 2 spots. He's just behind Daniel Jones. We got Daniel Jones, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Daniels, Love, Mahomes, Allen, all ranked ahead of him. Then it's Fields. He's QB 11 left on the week. Projects there's like a big tier of quarterbacks though, really from like QB 4, from Jaden Daniels all the way through Baker Mayfield. These guys all project within 1 point. QB 4 projects 1 point above QB 14. I mean, it's a really wide tier here in week 6. This is a good question here though. Sutton versus Ladd. It's really tough to bench Courtland Sutton right now. He ranks as wide receiver, projects as wide receiver 17. He's had one game under 17 PPR points. It was a bad one. He had 1.6 points in that game. But even with that game, he's a top 12 wide receiver so far this season, 16.1 points per game. The Broncos are really big favorites in this one. But I mean, this is the exact type of consistency that's tough to find, honestly, this season at wide receiver. It's coming off his highest target total of the season. I think you kind of have to ride with Sutton. At the same time, oh man, Ladd projects ahead of him. And one of the main reasons Ladd is going to project so well this week is Quentin Johnston is out. This is a huge deal for Keenan and for Ladd. I got some serious concerns for the Chargers. The good news, though, is they play the Dolphins this week. Easily one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, it's really clear already this early in the season. There's a few defenses you're going to want to target when it comes to fantasy football. The Cowboys are obviously one of them. The Dolphins are definitely one of them. We just saw Rico Dowdle go for over 200 rushing yards against the Dolphins. The Bengals are clearly one of these defenses as well. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for passing attacks may be one as well. It's part of the reason the 49ers passing attack ranks so well today. But yeah, this was a long way of I started out saying, I don't know how we bench Sutton. I think you bench him for Ladd. I think you do against the Dolphins here. The Chargers offensive line is really struggling, but this matchup versus the Dolphins is going to be a good one. No Quentin Johnson. It's been so tough to start Ladd this season with Quentin Johnson really playing the best among all 3 receivers. But with no Johnson, we should see the largest target share of the season for Ladd. He's been over 25% target share just once. So yeah, I think I would go Ladd over Sutton. Man, tough call though for sure. Jordan Love or Justin Herbert. Not a London time question. I'm going to try to prioritize the London time questions, guys, because we're all up on London time, and we got to lock in the Jets Broncos start sits as soon as possible. But yeah, I do. This one's pretty close too. Pull up the QB ranks here. Let's actually jump to the tight end ranks. I don't think there's really many people that are going to be throwing Mason Taylor in their lineup, but Mason Taylor ranks pretty well, projects pretty well for us in the Walter Picks app right now. Like very quietly, he's become the wide receiver 2 on this Jets team. Back-to-back games with at least 11 points. He had 9 catches last week for 67 yards against the Cowboys. But still, back-to-back games over 25% target share, 3 straight over 17% target share. We're projecting for a 24% target share in this game. You don't see rookie tight ends do this, by the way, unless they're legit. Like Mason Taylor's got a very, very promising future in the NFL right now. Mason Taylor or Pitts, I'm seeing in the TikTok live. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now, by the way. Seriously, appreciate you guys all so much. We're going to be live for the next several hours. We're going to be live right up until this London time game, right up until the early window games in a few hours. I do want to start Kyle Pitts this week as well, because we have no Darnell Mooney in the lineup this week. But the Bills have been pretty good against tight ends. They haven't really played many good tight ends. They did play Hunter Henry last week, and he didn't do anything. Even though the Patriots offense overall did okay. He had 6.6. That was the second best tight end performance we've seen against the Bills this season. But they haven't really played anyone. Andrews had 1.5 in week 1. He's actually been decent this season. Jeremy Ruckert scored, but there's been one tight end with 3 catches against the Bills. No other tight end even has 4 catches. Juwan Johnson has the most catches as a tight end versus the Bills. That was 3. So the floor is really low for Pitts still, even with Mooney out. So yeah, I think I would go Mason Taylor. I think the floor is higher for Mason Taylor. Pitts or Fannin need upside. I'm in on Fannin. Yeah, I'm in on Fannin this week. I honestly, I think I would go Fannin versus Pitts. All right, let's get back to some of the London time questions. Good morning, Sam. Big day for fantasy. Need to start one. Bourne or Coleman? I think you go Kendrick Bourne. I think you go Kendrick Bourne. Good morning to you as well, Randall. Tonjes or Taylor? I don't trust London. Just don't trust London or garbage time. I don't know if you mean Drake London or just the London time game, Kevin. The London time game, I assume, is what you're saying here. I don't know what Drake London has to do with this. Yeah, we have Jake Tonges ahead of Mason Taylor. The tight end starts this week are pretty rough. They're pretty tough. We got Jake. Here we are. It's week 6. We're a month and a half into the season, guys. We're confidently projecting Jake Tonges and Mason Taylor ahead of Travis Kelce, ahead of Mark Andrews, ahead of Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta. I mean, I think it makes sense. Tonges has been balling. Like Jake Tonges honestly might be projected a little too low. This matchup versus the Buccaneers is a very, very good matchup for the 49ers passing attack. I don't know how we bench Tonges. He should be rostered in every league. He should probably be started in most leagues. The only tight ends we have projected ahead of Jake Tonges right now are Tucker Kraft, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, Tyler Warren, and Trey McBride. I'm excited to talk more about Tyler Warren later in this live because, man, Tyler Warren I think he's got a very good shot at the offensive rookie of the year. Right now, Buka is like the clear favorite. I would not sleep on Tyler Warren pushing for it, though. Fields or Cam Ward? Guys, we're going to start Fields. We're going to start Fields in a spot like that. We absolutely cannot be starting. We absolutely cannot be starting Cam Ward. Cam Ward has been the second worst quarterback in the NFL this season. Just statistically speaking. I know he's shown flashes. I get that he's shown flashes at times. Statistically speaking, the only quarterback that's been worse than Cam Ward this season is Joe Flacco. That's it. End of list. That's the only statistically worst quarterback. And somehow a team convinced themselves to trade for Joe Flacco. Bryce Young or Bo Nix? Yeah, so Weatherman Sam is here for you guys today. Weatherman Sam is here for you guys all season. And Weatherman Sam has 2 games that he's concerned about today. And one of them is this Panthers-Cowboys game. There's going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour in that game. So I'm a little concerned. I think that's enough of a reason to go with Bo Nix over Bryce Young. I mentioned it earlier on the live. We do have Bo Nix just barely projected ahead of Bryce Young. There's a really big tier of quarterbacks from QB4 to QB14, all project within 1 point. So I'm willing to go away from the QB playing in 30 mile an hour wind gusts, when that's the case. I'm fine doing that. Guys, if you're on the YouTube live, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. This is year 5, week 6 of the Sunday morning lives every single Sunday. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, smash the follow button. And guys, if I don't get to your start sit, I'm going to try to get to as many start sits as I possibly can. I'm going to get to way more than you would probably expect. But I can't get to all of them. That's part of the reason I built the Walter Picks app. Over the last 5 years of my life, I've helped build the Walter Picks app. It is the best app possible for both fantasy and props. It's a free app. It comes with a completely free 7-day trial for all the premium features too. Please check that out. If you need start sit advice, trade advice, player prop research, it's going to be the app for you. And if you missed it earlier in the live, we're riding J.K. Dobbins' rushing line here on London time. All right, let's get to some more London time questions. Let me know in the comments too. Put London time in the beginning of your comment. London time in the beginning of your comment, so I know it's a London time question, and I can try to prioritize. And guys, if you don't have a London time question, don't send your question in the chat. Just don't send it right now. We're gonna get to the London time questions first. All right, because we got like 15 minutes till this game kicks off, and then it's over. Game set match. It's over. All right, Mason Taylor, Chase Brown, or DJ Moore. Yeah, we're not starting a tight end here, Rob. We're not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not starting a tight end over Chase Brown or DJ Moore. I told a lot of people to bench Chase Brown last week. The process wasn't terrible there. The result was bad, though. And I think I told a couple people to start Chase Brown over start Kendra Miller over Chase Brown. Last week, he only had 27 rushing yards. His under hit. He had 7 catches, though. I mean, there's not very many running backs that can get to 7 catches in the NFL. The PPR, in a PPR league, Chase Brown is startable. He is startable. London time, Taylor or Fannin? I'm going Fannin. I'm going Fannin over Taylor. Yeah. Let's go to the tight ends here. Oh, God. We got Taylor just ahead of Fannin. I think I'd go Fannin over Taylor. Let's do this comparison quick. That's a good one for the TikTok live. There's some tough tight end start sits. I'm definitely a bit higher on Fannin than our projections have. We have it really, really close. 2 rookie tight ends here. I feel really good about that tight end target share we saw from Dylan Gabriel last week. The matchup against the Steelers is actually better than this matchup versus the Broncos as well. The Steelers defense has not been very good this season. They're allowing the 26th in points allowed. Hunter Henry had a 29-point game against them. TJ Hawkinson had 8 points. They're allowing 16.1 points per game to tight ends. The Broncos, on the other hand, are allowing under 10 points per game to tight ends. I don't think, not a single tight end. Only Goddard caught a touchdown. We have seen a couple good tight end performances, but yeah, I think I lean Fannin. Tonjes or Waller? Yeah, we got to go Tonjes. Tonjes or Kraft? Then we're going Kraft. Yeah, we're going Kraft. Mason Taylor, Golden, Mims. I kind of am excited for Matthew Golden today. Coming out of the bye, I think I'd probably go Golden over Mason Taylor. London time. Been here the whole time. Shout out to you. Wilson or Ladd? No Quentin Johnson. Oh, God, yeah. And we got Garrett Wilson likely in the Pat Surtain box here on London time against the Broncos. It's Ladd. Oh, man, they project back-to-back. Let me hop over to the wide receiver ranks again quick. Guys, we're starting Tonjes. Unless you have Kraft, Njoku, Ferguson, Tyler Warner, McBride, you kind of have to start Tonjes. Jake Tonjes. I think it's Tonjes. It's Scattaboo, too, not Scatabo. We're learning here on the Walter Picks live stream. All right, let's get to some partial London time. Desperate. Franklin, Jamar, Brown, Henderson, Stevenson, Carter, Miller. We're starting Jamar. Get Jamar out of this question. This is a start one question. Even with Flacco, even with Jake Browning, even in a difficult matchup, you just have to start Jamar in start sits like this. And then I think it's Ramondre Stevenson over Troy Franklin. Start one. Sutton, Jamar, Keenan, or Waddle. Another Jamar question. This one's, I think, a little closer, though. Where do we have Jamar compared to these guys? Oh, wow. He's up at the wide receiver 3 still. Yeah, you got to go Jamar. Got to start Jamar. This one feels a little tougher, but yeah, you got to start Jamar. Let's go to the wide receiver ranks here. Pull up the wide receiver ranks. Seen a lot of wide receiver starts. It's a lot of Sutton questions. Sutton's a good start, but I'm not starting him over Jamar Chase. Nope. Bo Nix, Drake May. Yeah, you're going Drake May. Easily Drake May. Dak or Fields. Yeah, so Dak Prescott projects pretty low today, partially because of the weather in that game. Again, there's going to be 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts in that game. I've done my own analysis on this. Wind over 25 miles an hour in NFL games, it's not good, guys. It is reason for concern. It is. There's 2 games with wind over 30 miles an hour today. Let me pull this up. Weatherman Sam's got you. An early Weatherman Sam report here on London time this morning because there's seemingly a lot of start sits. London time start sits with these 2 games. If you guys are watching live on YouTube, you can see the weather report on the screen. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. It's all the same info, but a little bit better viewing experience on YouTube. I can share my screen on YouTube. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. There's going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour in this Cowboys at Panthers game that's in Carolina and the Rams at Ravens game. I'm concerned about the passing attack in both games. Not to mention this Rams-Ravens game. I mean, the Rams just might not need to throw. Like, they're going to throw a little bit with how effective the passing game has been. But we might see some streaks come to an end here for Puka Nacua. And this game's just not going to be close. I mean, the Ravens are still trotting out mostly a practice squad defense with no Lamar Jackson in this game. So the passing volume for the Rams, I think, is in serious, serious question today. But yeah, the Cowboys passing attack, the Panthers passing attack, the Rams passing attack, and the Ravens passing attack, all pretty concerning with this wind. And some of those passing attacks, I think we already should have been kind of concerned about. A little tough for the Panthers, who had this really good matchup. If anything, though, I think that could end up being more. It could be more work to Rico Dowdle in that revenge game. Mac and Cheese Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, or Fields, pick 2. Yeah, so Mac and Cheese Mac Jones, he's in play this week. There's really no way around it. Mac Jones is in play. I think I would still go Daniel Jones and Justin Fields over him. They had the rushing floor that Mac Jones just doesn't have. Mac Jones has been battling through a knee injury the whole time he's been playing this season. And he's been playing well. 22.2 points last week against the Rams. That was 342 pass yards and 2 TDs. That was on a Thursday night. That was without Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings is going to be playing this week. We'll see how healthy he is. But they also have Christian McCaffrey playing like a legit wide receiver 1 in the offense. And now they get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a pass funnel defense. We just saw Sam Darnold be the QB3, go for 341 and 4 passing touchdowns. I'm not saying Mac Jones will match that, but that's the type of ceiling we're looking at for Mac Jones today. The Bucs are allowing over 20 points per game. So yeah, Mac Jones is in play. That's why this question makes some sense. But I'd still start Fields, and I think I'd still start Daniel Jones over him. Mason or Tonjes? Yeah, we got a lot of Mason Taylor questions, and I get it. We have Mason Taylor ranked pretty high. He's ranked as tight end 7 left on the week. We got him ahead of Kelsey, ahead of Pitts, Andrews, ahead of Waller and Kincaid and Laporta. I mean, it's crazy stuff. Looking at these tight end rankings here in week 6, it's really crazy. But yeah, Mason Taylor, he's had over a 17% target share in 3 straight games. We were just looking at the game logs over on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience on YouTube. All right, we got another London time starts it here. A good one here with RJ Harvey. There's no Tyler Bidet. Tyler Bidet is out. Let me hop over to the running back ranks again. But Tyler Bidet being out, I think does bump up RJ Harvey at least a little bit in the ranks. Let's see where we got him here. I think he's still just behind Sean Tucker. No, he's just ahead now of Sean Tucker. He ranks as running back 32 left, just behind Hassan Haskins. Haskins is startable. After what Rico Dowdle did last week, Haskins is startable. The offensive line is definitely a concern for the Chargers, but I think all of that is kind of not going to matter against the Dolphins. Anyways, RJ Harvey, Tyquan Thornton, Kenneth Gainwell, Taysom Hill. We're not starting Taysom still, guys. We still can't start Taysom yet. Unless you are really down bad at tight end, we can't start Taysom. I'll pull up the running back ranks here on the YouTube live. I get the Kenneth Gainwell potential here. Gainwell actually, he projects a little bit better than RJ Harvey. I'm pretty scared for Kenneth Gainwell today. I actually think I have him as a must bench. Pull up my must starts, must benches on the TikTok live. I think I would go RJ Harvey, honestly, over Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell is playing the Browns, maybe the best defensive line in the league. And Jaylen Warren's back. The one big Kenneth Gainwell game we saw, Jaylen Warren was out. Jaylen Warren's back this week. What's the real ceiling for Kenneth Gainwell? Like 15 points? Like 14 points? We've seen one running back this whole season against the Browns have more than 13.5 points. That was Jahmyr Gibbs. So, like, what is the ceiling for Kenneth Gainwell? There's a real ceiling here for RJ Harvey. This game might not be close. And the fact that Bidet is out, I think, does give me a decent amount more confidence in RJ Harvey today, too. I think Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be active. But Tyler Bidet has been playing like actual snaps. He played 19 snaps last week. Ran 15 routes. He took a fourth of the snaps away. Took 2 targets. He's been getting like at least 2 targets in almost every single game. Hopefully we don't see Jaleel McLaughlin just step into that role. It's definitely possible. Definitely possible. I would probably argue Kenneth Gainwell's floor is maybe a tiny bit higher, but the ceiling for Harvey's got to be higher than Kenneth Gainwell. Sutton, Waddle, or Keenan. Yeah, so you want to start Keenan. You want to start Waddle. And I understand wanting to start Sutton, but God, I think Waddle and Keenan both should project higher than Sutton. Yeah, Waddle and Keenan both do. They both do project both top 12. We got Sutton right outside the top 12, wide receiver 17. Let me go back to the wide receiver ranks here. Am I starting Haskins over Carter? Yeah, we're benching Michael Carter, in my opinion. This week, I called Michael Carter a trap last week. He ended up doing okay. The matchup's much tougher this week. Harvey or Henderson, start sit. Oh, man, every single week on this live, I struggle through the Trevion Henderson start sits, man. Every single week in my own leagues, I'm struggling through the Trevion Henderson start sits. With no Antonio Gibson, Henderson, he has to project a little bit better. The matchup is not bad for Henderson today either. He just hasn't looked good. And even when Gibson went out last week, he didn't really play that much more. Like Gibson missed, the whole fourth quarter, maybe a little bit more than that. He did have a season-high 50% snap percentage. I mean, he should get around half the work, but he's still going to be in a split backfield. Man, I mean, it's not an easy call here between Harvey and Henderson. Honestly, I think I lean towards RJ Harvey personally over Henderson. Again, probably would argue that the floor is maybe a little bit safer for Henderson. He's going to probably play a higher snap percentage. I still think the ceiling for Harvey's probably a little bit higher. Wilson, Pickens, pick two between Garrett Wilson and Pickens. Bro, you said pick two. You gave me two players. This is the easiest start sit of the day. But if we say this is a pick one, or let's assume you forgot someone here, I think I would probably go Garrett Wilson over George Pickens today because of the wind in the Cowboys game. The wind impacts the deep passing game too the most. Dobbins, Jennings, or Bill? Bill Nye the Science Guy. We like Bill today, but I still think you probably go Dobbins over Bill. Man, I was waiting for this one. Jacory Krosky, Merritt, and J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, look, they actually project right next to each other. I'll hop over to the running back ranks. Let me know in the comments, guys, what positional ranks you guys want to see next. Where's DK Metcalf? He's on there. I think he was on there. Did I leave him out somehow? Maybe I accidentally cut him off. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I think he should have been right at the top of Kendrick Bourne there. I got him on the YouTube live for sure. But yeah, Dobbins, Jennings, or Bill. Yeah, you got to go Dobbins, guys. I started off talking about this game. We're on the Dobbins prop in this game, so it's hard for me not to answer Dobbins for that reason as well. But he's got at least 14.5 points in all but one game. In that one game where he didn't hit 14.5, he had 101 rushing yards, just didn't score a touchdown. His only game without a touchdown. His receiving role has not been great. He's got at least one catch in every game, but he doesn't have a game with more than 2 catches. He's got 1 or 2 catches in every game. Let's put Juwan Jennings in this spot too. There's definitely a ceiling for Juwan Jennings. This is a very good matchup for Jennings. And there's no Pearsall. There's obviously still no Ayuk. There's obviously still no Kittle. With the one game we saw Jennings actually play this season, he balled out. And I believe that game was actually with Mac Jones. But yeah, it's still Dobbins. I still think it's Dobbins. Really good chance at a touchdown. Really good chance to go over 100 total yards. Like really good floor and ceiling, I think, for Dobbins in this game. Brian Thomas Jr. or Tet with the wind. Yeah, so Tet is one of the guys that, unfortunately, we had to knock down the ranks a little bit because there's going to be 30-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts. That's not good news for Bryce Young or Tet. And Tet was a guy we were projecting extremely high before the weather report. He still projects pretty high after the weather report. Ted's like had an underrated season so far. He still projects his wide receiver 7. He's playing the Cowboys. This is what we've been waiting for Tet. He gets the Cowboys secondary. That's one of the worst secondaries I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, this defense has been so bad. They're allowing almost 200 yards per game to receivers, 45.3 points per game to receivers. Guys, Tet McMillan is like over half of the receiving production for the Panthers. We've seen at least one guy score 19 points in 3 of the last 4 games against this Cowboys defense. In the week 1 game, the Eagles just didn't throw very much. I think I'd still go Tet. Yeah, I still think I'd go Tet over Brian Thomas Jr. The other underrated aspect of Tet McMillan that I don't think many people appreciate yet, but it's coming. He's a very good after-the-catch receiver. We haven't seen like a big after-the-catch play from Tech yet, but he's very capable of making big plays after the catch. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. is as well. Daniels or Fields? I think I lean towards Daniels over Fields. We got a lot of London time questions coming in here on London time here in week 6. We got a game kicking off in a couple of minutes. Kincaid or Mason Taylor? Think Kincaid will play. I could also pick up Tongas. Yeah, just pick up Tongas. Just pick up Jake Tongas. I actually like Mason Taylor, but we got Jake Tongas projected a little ahead. I think Tongas in that matchup is better than Mason Taylor in this matchup on London time. I would just do that. I think Kincaid does play. I do think Kincaid plays. Let's see if there's been any latest reports here. People talking like Kyler Murray's out today. Like Jacoby Brissett's going to be a boost for the Cardinals pass attack. I get that Kyler Murray hasn't been good. I'm not so sure I'm going to go that far and call Jacoby Brissett a boost for the Arizona Cardinals passing attack today. Terry McLaurin is out. No, Brown's out. I see a couple Deebo Samuel questions. Guys, you got to start Deebo. Deebo's on pace right now for his highest targets per route run of his career. Technically, Deebo's questionable. Kincaid is technically questionable too. I do think Kincaid will play. Bro, should I play Juwan Jennings? Yes, you should play Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings versus Hassan Haskins or Tony Pollard? Yeah, it's definitely Jennings there. But what about Juwan Jennings versus Cortland Sutton for this London time game? Man, we got them back to back. I think I would go Jennings. I think I would go Jennings over Sutton. Definitely a close one. The guys we have ranked over Sutton: Juwan Jennings, Xavier Worthy, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Ladd McConkey, with no Quentin Johnston today, Jalen Waddle, with no Tyreek. Guys, Waddle's a top 12 wide receiver. Like he's projecting as wide receiver 1. The first game without Tyreek, 6 catches, 110 touchdown, 23 points, top 8 receiver. It's hard not to like and project Jalen Waddle really, really well right now. Keenan Allen projects great with no Quentin Johnston. Rome Odunze, who's the only receiver in the NFL with a touchdown in every game. I actually think he might be the only player in the NFL with a touchdown in every game, outside of the quarterbacks, obviously. Deebo, Tet McMillan, we're still starting him over Sutton despite the wind in that game. Drake London, if you guys remember back in week 1, London projected as the wide receiver 1 in that game because there was no Darnell Mooney. He projects as wide receiver 6 here in week 6 with no Darnell Mooney against the Bills. Amon-Ra, JSN, Chase, Egbuka projects as wide receiver 2, no Godwin, no Evans, no Bucky. I mean, he's the only guy standing. And then Puka Nacua is just the obvious wide receiver 1, even with the weather in that game. All right, guys, we're kicking off here in London time. So we're going to get to the segment of the live stream here where I go game by game. I give you my thoughts on every single game. We talk about pretty much every relevant player in every game here on this segment of the live stream. Shout out to every single one of you doing the dual screen. You got the London time game on one screen. You got the Walter Picks Sunday morning live stream on the other screen. Shout out to every single one of you. Seriously. Start to Swift, Olave, Jennings, or Franklin. Get to this. Starts it. Franklin, I think, should be benched here. And it's too late. Peter, it's too late. I'm sorry. I got to this one too late. But yeah, I think I would play Jennings and then probably Swift. I'm pretty nervous for the Saints in this game here versus the Patriots. With Christian Gonzalez back, I don't feel great about Chris Olave today. All right, let's go. Let's start going game by game here on the Sunday morning live. Man, week 6. We got a London time game kicking off. I'll pull this up here on my screen to make sure we follow along with that game. All right, that's about to kick off. Let's get going game by game. So, by the way, I'm taking the Broncos in this game for sure. I just the thing I'm most confident in this game, though, the only thing I'm actually riding with my own money is Dobbins rushing line. Okay, Browns at Steelers. The Browns defense, they're number 1 in getting contact behind the line of scrimmage. Over 60% of the time, 60% of run plays against the Browns are getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. That is number 1 in the NFL. Obviously, that's not good news for Jaylen Warren, and it is not good news for Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, I really think you got to bench both Warren and Gainwell if you can today. This is one of these defenses, one of these defensive lines you do not want to start running backs against. And we've seen some very, very good running backs. They pull this up. Pull the Steelers up here. We've seen some very, very good running backs versus this Browns team do absolutely nothing. Warren projects his running back 21. I'm very, very curious, too, to see the split here between Warren and Gainwell. The Browns are allowing the fewest rushing yards per game to running backs. Only 62 total yards allowed to running backs per game on the ground. We were just talking about it earlier in some of these start-sits. But what's the ceiling today for Kenneth Gainwell? I mean, what's the ceiling for Jaylen Warren? The ceiling that we've seen so far this season against this Browns team is 17.7 points. That came from Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, the ceiling is like 15, 14 for these guys. This is not the type of player I want to start in my fantasy football roster. Like, I would honestly almost rather start RJ Harvey than Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. Even though the floor is definitely lower, the volume projection is definitely lower for Harvey. I think the ceiling, there's a story where the ceiling for Harvey is 20 points. Like, he has a couple big plays here versus the Jets. He gets more involved in the receiving game. He at least has a matchup where we've seen guys go over 20 points versus the Jets. Haven't seen it versus the Browns. Jordan Mason had 12.6 last week with a touchdown. If Warren or Gainwell don't score a touchdown, they're easily going under 10 points today. So I want to bench both them. I mean, there's really not a Steelers player I feel great to start. DK Metcalf is certainly the most startable among all the Steelers. Again, over 60% of the run plays against the Browns have been hit behind the line of scrimmage. And then on the Brown side of this game, there's actually some guys I think you should be excited about. Both Njoku and Fannin project as top 9 tight ends. Njoku projects as a top 4 tight end. And I know he started the season really slow. I know a lot of people were even thinking about dropping David Njoku through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Didn't have a game over 10 points until last week. Hit 18.7 points. 6 catches, 67 yards. But guys, we just peek back to last year. I know it's easy to forget. He was the tight end 4 last season. David Njoku in points per game. He was the tight end 4 in catches per game. Njoku could be a top 5 tight end rest of the season. It would not be that surprising. And wow, 18.7 last week was only good for tight end 7. I mean, it was a good tight end week. Wow. But yeah, I mean, he's got a really good schedule coming up. Both him and Fannin, I think, are starts. How do you feel about Mac Jones or Dillon Gabriel? Yeah, so Dillon Gabriel in this game. Let's talk about him since we're on the Browns Steelers game anyways. This should be a good matchup for him. I don't want to start him in fantasy. He had 16.1 last week against the Vikings. He was at 5.8 yards per attempt. This is not a great pass game environment here. It's a lot of quick, like, especially for the quarterback. There's a huge target share that went to tight ends, which is part of the reason I like Fannin and Njoku. Like, I think we can lock in 30% of the targets here on this team to the tight ends. I mean, it's hard to say that for any team other than the Browns, really, right now. There's obviously 2 of them. They both project as top 10 tight ends, though. Yeah, Dillon Gabriel, though, like Flacco has been the least efficient quarterback in the NFL. And some of that is Flacco, and some of that's just the situation with the Browns, the offensive line, and the entire passing environment. 5.8 yards per attempt in the first game for Dillon Gabriel. He didn't look terrible. He gave them a chance in this one. But yeah, 16.1 points, 190 with 2 passing touchdowns. He barely ran. He only had 5 rushing yards. I'm definitely starting Mac Jones over Dillon Gabriel. Like, not even really close. I'll pull up the QB ranks here, but I actually don't think that one's like close at all. Like, I think 17.6 we're projecting Mac Jones. We're projecting Dillon Gabriel for 13.8. I mean, it's a really big gap. Quinshad Judkins is an elite running back. I mean, he's an elite running back already in the NFL. Looking like a very sharp pick by the Browns. He got taken 1 pick before Trevor and Henderson. A lot of people disagreed with that at the time. That's clearly aging really well, really fast. He's at number 5 in the NFL in rushing yards per game. That includes a week 2 game where he had practiced literally twice. He missed the entire preseason, practiced twice for that week 2 game. It was so clear to me after that week 2 game that Judkins was going to be a guy we wanted in fantasy. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to be relied upon as a running back at the NFL level. You practice twice and you produce 71 yards. You play like you get half the touches in the backfield after 2 practices. And his role is just steadily risen, really, from there. Now he's playing over half the snaps. He's getting over 70% of the carries every single week. He's got 3 straight games with at least 18 carries. I mean, what is the floor for Judkins? Like every week. I mean, they were setting his prop lines just like egregiously low for 3 straight weeks now. Like they're setting his prop lines at his floor for three weeks in a row. Like the floor for Judkins rushing is 65 yards, 70 yards. I mean, he had 61 yards cut off the street, basically. Like that's kind of his floor. And he's against the Ravens, but still. And he's done really well even against tough run defenses. Lions and Packers both ranked top 8 against running backs this season. He had over 80 rushing yards and a touchdown against both those teams. Steelers defense is a lot less scary. The floor for Judkins looks so strong right now. This guy knows ball. Mac Jones ranked at 12. Yeah, that being the signal of knowing ball is a sign of a great season, man. The other thing, just a note on this game, I called this in a few spots last week, and I think I was like dead on in basically every single one of them, maybe outside of one. A 6.5 point spread in this game does not make sense. The Steelers, they're favored by 6.5 against the Browns. I get they're at home. Steelers at home in this game. They opened as 4.5 point favorites. Now they're 6.5 point favorites. I get the Steelers, they're coming off a bye. You look at Mike Tomlin off the bye. He almost never loses. You look at the history of the Steelers versus Browns recently, like it favors the Steelers really well. But 6.5 point favorites for this Pittsburgh Steelers team, the Browns clearly have the better defense. Is the offense for the Steelers that much better? I just don't think you can say that. This spread is really surprising to me. I really think this should be like a 1.5, 2.5 point spread, a 6.5 point spread for the Steelers. I'm definitely taking the Browns in the spot. I know it was on the Browns on London time last week too against the Vikings. That didn't end up coming to fruition. The game was super close though. Obviously, the Browns could have won that game. They were winning for the majority of the game. Yeah, very, very surprising to me, the spread. There's, I think, one other spread today I'm going to say this about. And on these types of games, I've actually had a pretty good pulse here on these spreads that don't make sense so far this season. All right, let's go to the next game here. Pull up the running back ranks here on both live streams. Shout out to everybody dual streaming the London time game and this live stream. We are an hour into the live. We are just getting started. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. It takes 2 seconds. I'm telling you, helps me out way more than you could possibly realize. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. Do appreciate it. Someone asked me why is Kate Otten ranked so high? Because there's no Mike Evans, there's no Chris Godwin, there's no Bucky Irving, and we're projecting kind of a pass-heavy game here in the Bucs 49ers game. All right, Chargers at Dolphins. A couple things to talk through in this game. There's no Quentin Johnston, first of all, so you kind of have to start Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey. I don't know how you don't start both those guys when Quentin Johnston is out. Quentin Johnston leading the Chargers in receiving yards, leading the Chargers in receiving touchdowns. I think he's leading the Chargers maybe in catches also. Might be Keenan. I think that one's probably pretty close. But he's definitely leading all the receivers in yards. He's led the team in yards in almost every single game. So you got to have to start Keenan and Ladd because they project for their highest roles of the season. At the same time, I think you got to be a little concerned about how this Chargers offense looks right now. Justin Herbert, just 4.5 air yards per attempt last week. That was the second fewest in a game his entire career. We actually have it at 3.3 in the Walter Picks app. I mean, he was getting pressured instantly, almost every single passing play last week against the Commanders. This offensive line, look, it was supposed to be a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. 3 or 4 starter injuries now have gone on, and now they're like a bottom 5, bottom 10 offensive line in the NFL. Really has changed the entire dynamic of this team. The Chargers O-line is definitely struggling. Let me pull up the Chargers depth chart here quick. They're missing Joe Alt. They had already lost in the preseason one of their all-pro offensive linemen, and then their right tackle is now out. So they're missing their left tackle. They're starting left tackle. They're starting right tackle. And they had already lost their starter in the preseason, as one of their starters in the preseason as well. And then obviously we're going to get a ton of Vidal and Haskins questions today. I'm on Team Haskins over Vidal. I think you could definitely talk yourself into Kamani Vidal having the higher ceiling among the two running backs. Is Jennings a trap today? No, I don't think Juwan Jennings is a trap today. But after what we saw last week from Rico Dowdle against this Dolphins defense, I think you can start Haskins in a lot of situations. Haskins was the first running back on the field for the Chargers after the Marion Hampton injury last week. Man, we have the both boom probabilities are really, really low here. I think there is a ceiling, though, for Haskins against this Dolphins team. You don't allow 200 rushing yards, 206 rushing yards to Rico Dowdle unless you were one of the worst defenses in recent history. It's not like this Panthers offense is this elite rushing attack. Like Rico Dowdle is this elite running back. So Haskins has like some real viability today. On the Dolphins side of this game, Jalen Waddle really is a must start with Tyreek Hill out. Like in almost all situations, I think we kind of have to be starting Jalen Waddle. I know there's going to be a lot of Darren Waller questions today too. He still doesn't project that great. He's coming up back-to-back games though, over 17 points. Guys, right now he's tight end 1 in points per game. He's only played 2 games. He's tight end 1 by like a decent margin. For context, he's averaging almost 6 points more per game than Trey McBride. But he's also scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games. He's got 8 catches. He scored 3 touchdowns. He's at a 37.5% touchdown rate. No, that is obviously not sustainable. There's just absolutely no chance. Take out the touchdowns, obviously his numbers will look a lot different. He did play a decent amount more last week. Obviously, after the Tyreek Hill injury, he's now 2 games in. Looks like I think Marv and DK Metcalf, for some reason, missing from my wide receiver ranks here on the TikTok live. I do have them up on the YouTube live, though. Here, come to the YouTube live. They should be on there on the YouTube live, I believe. Let me pull up, see where those guys rank. Yeah, we got Marvin Harrison Jr. ranked. Yeah, I think I missed Metcalf and Marv. I skipped over them. They both projected. They're like right. They should be right here, like right up here, right ahead of Kendrick Bourne. I don't know why I skipped over them by accident. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. and DK Metcalf, wide receiver 25 and 26. God, I think a lot of people are expecting Marvin Harrison Jr. to benefit from the Jacoby Brissett change at quarterback. I'm not so convinced that's actually good for him. But yeah, back to the Darren Waller stuff. I don't think he's a must start. I do not think he's a must start. I think he is startable, but I would not call him a must start. Now, I would actually prefer Michael Mayer over him, Harold Fannin over him. I would have told you to start Mason Taylor in this Jets game over him, Jake Tongas over him. All those guys I would start over. Jets got a field goal, looks like, on their first drive. How did they get a field goal? Was it like a kick return or something? I don't understand how they have 3 points based on the stats I'm seeing. But we're locked into the live, so I'll look to you guys in the chat. Fumble recovery, yep, that checks out. Fumble recovery, 3 and out, field goal. Sounds about right. Okay. On to the next game here. That's the Chargers and the Dolphins. Patriots at Saints. This is the only other game today. We're like, how is this the spread in this game? Really, I do not understand. The Patriots are only 3.5 point favorites. Like maybe a bit of a trap game, I guess. Coming off a huge game, huge win. Kind of a somewhat fortunate win versus the Bills with all the turnovers that the Bills had in that game. I certainly wouldn't sit here today and tell you that the Patriots are better than the Bills. But only 3.5 point favorites versus the Saints. The Patriots defense is, I think, getting a little underrated right now. I think the Saints could really struggle to move the ball in this game. The Patriots run defense has been very, very strong this season. And now they add Christian Gonzalez back. And we could see a really difficult time moving the ball for the Saints today. Looking at the matchup tab here. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, better viewing experience. I can pull up comments on screen. I can share my screen. So we're looking at Kamara's game logs in Kamara's matchup versus the Patriots today on screen on the YouTube live. Again, links to that in the TikTok bio. We've only seen one running back have more than 13.1 points. Only one running back have more than 13.1 points versus the Patriots. That was Devon Achane back in week 2. He had 8 catches in that game for 92 yards and a touchdown. Not saying that Kamara doesn't have that, potential, but they're allowing only 64 rushing yards per game, 3.2 yards per carry allowed to running backs this season. That's third best in the NFL. Like, they're up there with the Browns in terms of run defense, the New England Patriots, and they just got back their top corner. This is one of the better defenses all of a sudden, I feel like, in the NFL. Especially, like, it's hard to picture the Saints overcoming this Pats defense here. The 3.5-point underdogs, that's it. Meanwhile, Drake May is a legit MVP candidate right now. Guys, Drake May is on pace to be the third quarterback in NFL history, just the third quarterback in NFL history, to average over 250 passing yards per game and average a better passer rating than 105. The only other 2 QBs in history to do that, Pat Mahomes in 2018, I think it was, and Dan Marino. Both of them won MVPs that season. I'm very surprised by this spread. I think like a 5.5, 6-point spread would make a lot more sense. Definitely like the Patriots money line and spread here. In terms of the Saints running backs, sounds like the Saints had legit trade offers for Alvin Kamara. They talked to him about it, and Kamara wants to finish his career as a Saint. What does that mean for fantasy, though? Like, is Kendre Miller going to have his role continue to grow? Or with Kamara still there, is it just going to cap Kendre Miller's ceiling? We have Kamara still projected well ahead of Kendre Miller. And guys, I know there's a ton of sits in the comments. I'm going to get to as many as I can. We're almost done going game by game here. Honestly, we're over halfway, I think, already through the games. We're going to have a guest on the live stream a bit later, too. We're going to have Samps on the live. But if you want your start sits answered instantly, go to the Walter Picks app. Go to the Walter Picks app. I've spent the last 5 years of my life helping build this app. It's the best app you could possibly use for fantasy advice, for player prop insights. It's going to be custom insights to your league settings. That's the other tough part. Like, if you're sending a start sit comment, what's the settings in your league, guys? Is it PPR, half PPR, non-PPR? That will change the answer in a lot of cases. And Kendre versus Kamara is a good example of that. In a non-PPR league, Kendre Miller might be straight up better than Kamara. But I think the bottom line today is Kamara is definitely a better start than Kendre Miller. I think Kendre Miller should be rostered in every league. And I don't want to start either of these guys today. I want nothing to do with either of these Saints running backs today. Again, the Patriots are third best versus running backs this season. I think a very underrated defense here. And Drake May, a very sneaky potential MVP candidate here. If the Patriots win the AFC East, which I'm not, obviously that's still a long shot. If they win the AFC East, Drake May's probably winning MVP. Like, Josh Allen's the favorite for MVP right now. Again, I just shared the stat a second ago. Drake May, he's on pace to be the third quarterback in NFL history to average over 250 passing yards per game and have a better passer rating than 105. Mahomes and Dan Marino are the only other 2. QB rankings, please. Yeah, I got you the QB ranks. The QB ranks, there's like a massive tier here in the QB ranks. QB4 projects within 1 point of QB14. I think it's a little bit of choose your warrior here at QB. Can you pull up the tight end rankings? Yeah, I got you with the tight end ranks. Some tough tight end start sits today for sure. All right, I'm going to mix in just a few start sits here. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with May as a Pats fan. I talked about this on the live stream last week. That game last week and that win last week for the Patriots, it was the biggest win. It was the biggest game for the Patriots in over 5 years. I mean, there's like, for the first time in a significantly long time. I know people don't care because the Pats have had such a long stretch of success before this period, but it's the first big win, the first real reason for optimism in a very, very long time for the Pats. So yes, very happy as a Pats fan. Tet, Pickens, or Bill. Yes, we already talked about that Panthers-Cowboys game. Weatherman Sam is here for you guys. There is going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour in that Panthers-Cowboys game, and I don't know how we bench Tet. I don't know how we look at this matchup versus the Cowboys, and we decide to bench Tet. I would play Tet over Pickens. I think I would play Tet over Bill, too. JCM or Dak. JCM or Metcalf. It's actually a pretty close one. Already talked about that Steelers game. Metcalf, the only Steeler we could possibly feel comfortable starting today. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt projects his running back 16 is probably, it's Bill. Bill. We got to start Bill. Warren or Dobbs? I think it's Dobbs. I do not want to start the Steelers running backs versus the Browns. No, thank you. Just no thanks. Yeah, I think Dobbs versus the Bengals. I could get behind that for sure. All right, let's keep going through these games. That's the Patriots Saints game. So there's two games that the spreads just don't make sense to me. The Browns being 6.5-point underdogs doesn't make sense. The Patriots only being 3.5-point favorites doesn't make sense to me. All right, the Rams at Ravens. The Rams, this is another one, a little surprising. Rams are only favored by 6.5. The Ravens are still missing 4 key defensive starters, and they're starting left tackle and Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry has been under 50 rushing yards in 4 straight games. That's the longest stretch of his career where we've seen him go under 50 rushing yards. I mean, we've seen like longer stretches of him going over 100 rushing yards in his career, Derrick Henry, than under 50. A true Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame career here for Derrick Henry. Now, I hope if this struggle continues for Henry this season, I hope that the grand scheme of Henry's career doesn't get lost here. But 4 straight games with 50 or fewer rushing yards, the longest stretch of Derrick Henry's career. Now he gets the Rams, who rank 3rd best against running backs this season. The best game we've seen against the Rams came last week. That was McCaffrey, but he had 8 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. He only had 57 rushing yards. We have not seen a rushing touchdown against the Rams this season. They rank 8th fewest yards allowed on the ground to running backs this season. That includes matchups against Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and Christian McCaffrey, too. Like, they played maybe the toughest running back schedule in the league, the Rams. Looking at those 3 matchups, 3 of their 5 matchups this season were against McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and Saquon, the Rams. They didn't allow a single rushing touchdown to any of those guys, including the first 2 weeks against the Texans and the Titans. Tony Pollard, strangely, he had the most rushing yards we've seen against the Rams. And like Derrick Henry, he has to be this offense. With no Lamar Jackson, he played 65% of snaps last week. He saw 15 carries. That was 80% of the carries. That was his highest numbers there of the season. 33 rushing yards for Derrick Henry. He did end up scoring. He scored. He still went under 10 points. Never a good sign. We talk about in fantasy football, we want the guys that can score, so that can get to 15 plus points without scoring, right? That's the ideal player in fantasy. That's the Christian McCaffrey in fantasy. Derrick Henry's the opposite right now. He's scoring and he's still going under 10 points. I mean, really, really rough. In a really tough matchup. He ranks as running back 19 this week, Derrick Henry. I mean, he ranks just barely ahead of Michael Carter here in week 6. And I'm definitely starting Derrick Henry over Michael Carter, to be clear. I am starting Derrick Henry over every guy we have ranked below him. Michael Carter. I'll pull the running back ranks here again on the YouTube Live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, smash the follow button. If you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button and the subscribe button. Do really, really, really appreciate it. Helps us out a ton. They pull the running back ranks up here for everyone. Someone asking why we're benching Jaylen Warren. It's because he's playing the Browns. And the Browns have been the best run defense this season. And yeah, here we go. Start Derrick Henry or Michael Carter, Steven, in the YouTube Live. We're starting Derrick Henry over Michael Carter. In my soul, I cannot get myself in my soul to start Michael Carter over Derrick Henry. And it's not a good matchup for Michael Carter either. Like, I do think Michael Carter, he's a bit of a trap again this week. I called him a trap last week. That was obviously wrong. You know, you were happy to start Michael Carter last week. He had 18.3 points. He was a top 10 running back. He only had 51 rushing yards, but he did score a rushing touchdown and he had 5 catches as well. This matchup, though, is not nearly as good this week. I think he's a bigger trap this week than I thought he was last week because he's coming off a good game. DeMarcado, I think a lot of people expect him to kind of get benched. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. Bam Knight did mix in last week. Michael Carter ended up having 18 carries, but they're huge underdogs here versus the Colts. They got Jacoby Brissett starting, and the Colts' run defense has been good as well. So yeah, I'm going Derrick Henry here for sure. And then I just want to touch on Puka Nacua really quickly. I know that no one has fantasy questions about Puka Nacua, but we got to talk about it, man. We got to talk about him just a little bit. He has 52 catches through 5 games. That's the most ever in the NFL history. Like, we are witnessing history. You know, when we turn on our TV screens in a few hours and we get to watch Puka Nacua, like, man, we got to all just smile a little bit. Whether we have him in fantasy or not, we are witnessing like true greatness here from Puka Nacua. And not only has he had the most catches in NFL history through the first 5 games of a season, he has 9 straight 7-catch games, going back to last season. This is a game. Weatherman Sam is here for you guys. The weather in this game is concerning. There's going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour. On top of that, the Rams are favored by 6.5. I honestly don't know how they're only favored by 6.5. Like, it really doesn't make sense to me that they're only favored by 6.5 with how bad this Ravens team looked last week and how badly they're injured. But guys, Puka Nacua, he doesn't have a game under 22 fantasy points. He has at least 7 catches now in 9 straight. So he's at least 7 catches, 9 straight games. The record, I believe, is 11 or 12. He could break the all-time record for 7 catch games. This could be a tough one, though, with the weather and the game script. If this game is as windy as it's projected, 30-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts, and the Rams are just laying it to the Ravens, who have no hope to keep pace with the Rams in this game, we maybe could see only a 5 or 6 catch game here from Puka. It's definitely possible that this streak ends. But he projects as wide receiver 1, regardless of all of these factors. You're obviously starting. Why is Juwan Jennings 16th in the wide receivers? Yeah, let's jump to that game, since I'm getting a question about the 49ers here in the chat. So let's hop to this 49ers game. They're playing the Buccaneers. This is a game that you want guys in for fantasy. Mac Jones, he's a very sneaky start this week. How about the QB ranks? Someone told me that they know I know ball in the chat. They said this guy knows ball because he has Mac Jones as QB 12. And yeah, I think that's a good litmus test here for how much someone knows ball. Mac Jones has been balling. And Mac Jones, outside of how he's played, Mac Jones has a very good matchup today. The best matchup he's had all season in all the games he's played in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys, they just got absolutely cooked by Sam Darnold. They allowed 341 pass yards and 4 pass TDs to Sam Darnold last week, almost 30 fantasy points. They're allowing over 20 points per game. They're just one of 6 defenses allowing over 20 points per game to quarterbacks. DK Metcalf and Marvin Harrison Jr., by the way, accidentally left them off those wide receiver rankings lists. They should be right ahead of Kendrick Bourne, who we're about to talk about here, who's a pretty good start. A pretty good start. Got an hour or so here till we get to the start-sit segment of the live. Going to answer hundreds of start-sits. Quentin Johnston's out. Yep, he's out. Straight up out. Not playing today. So get Quentin Johnston out of your lineup and put Keenan and Ladd in. But yeah, Mac Jones is a sneaky start in the pass funnel matchup here against the Bucs. Kendrick Bourne is absolutely startable. We got some old Patriots chemistry here between Kendrick Bourne and Mac and Cheese Mac Jones. Kendrick Bourne projects as a top 30 wide receiver. He had 10 catches for 142 last week. And again, a pass funnel matchup here against the Bucs. We do have Juwan Jennings in this game, though. Juwan Jennings did not play last week. So it's hard to expect Bourne to be quite as involved. And Juwan Jennings is going to project well. There's been one real game from Juwan Jennings this season. There's been one game. He did play in week 4. I think Pearsall was active in that game too. The one game where he had more than 5 targets, he had 20 points, 5 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. He's expected to suit up. He's dealing with ankle and rib injuries. Certainly some real risk. Like, I don't know what we can argue that the floor is for Jennings in this game. Probably like 6 points, like we saw in his last game. The ceiling, though, is 20 plus. The ceiling is pretty strong here for Juwan Jennings. I do think he's a decent start. Keenan or Devontae Adams, I would go Keenan. Christian McCaffrey, similar to Puka, we just have to touch on him again, like super quick. Easily projects as running back 1. Like Christian McCaffrey and Puka Nacua, they're both kind of breaking projections. McCaffrey's at a 27% target share this season. There's only one other running back over 20%. And that's Achane. He's at 20.5%. Bijan is almost 10% target share below McCaffrey. He's running back 3 in target share. McCaffrey, we did this, I think, on the live last week. Guys, McCaffrey, he's at 3.1 yards per carry. He's averaging 24.8 points. Why is it Jaylen Warren? He's been extremely efficient when on the field because he's playing the Browns. Yeah, little easier to be efficient when you're not playing the Browns. The Browns are the number 1 defense versus running backs this season. Over 60% of the carries against the Browns this season have been hit behind line of scrimmage. That's not good, guys. Not good for Jaylen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell. And Kenneth Gainwell also played so well when Warren was out. It's hard not to see Kenneth Gainwell, still having a pretty big role too. So you got Jaylen Warren in a split backfield against a really tough defense. Chris McCaffrey's at 2.4 yards per route run. This is up there with the best receivers in the league. We did this last week. We got to check back in here again this week after another 8-catch game last week from McCaffrey. He's up to 7.8 catches per game, almost like doubling up the number 3, number 4 receivers, number 3, number 4 running backs in catches per game. So he's at 7.8 catches per game. I think when we looked last week, Puka Nacua was the only guy with more catches per game than him, like in the NFL, period. Puka's at 10.4. And yeah, it's still the case. I mean, it goes Puka Nacua at number 1 in catches per game at 10.4. He has the all-time record for the most catches in NFL history through 5 games. And then it's Christian McCaffrey at number 2 in the NFL. He has more catches per game than Jackson Smith-Njigba and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Over a full catch per game more. Wild stuff for the role for Christian McCaffrey to start the season. Zane Kamara for Olave and ETN. Yeah, that's probably a dub. Probably a W. All right, let's get to Chase Brown or Carter. Oh gosh, I think you probably go Carter there. I don't really want to start either of those guys. I think I have them both maybe as benches. No, I don't have Chase Brown as a bench. Yeah, I think I probably would go Chase Brown actually. Shout out to everybody. Dual streaming this live stream and the London time game. Looks like that London time game is off to a fun start, 6-3. Dobbins only has 3 carries for 3 yards. I didn't see if he was the one that fumbled or not. Justin Fields has -1 passing yards. Gosh, it seems like a pretty gross game so far. Julian McLaughlin playing an annoying amount, of course. We didn't talk about the Bucs side of this game really quickly. Egbuka projects as wide receiver 2. There's only one receiver I'd rather start than Egbuka right now, and that is Puka Nacua. There's no Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin picked up, what was it, a fibula injury, unrelated. Like that was what he hurt his fibula last year. He broke his fibula. Apparently this is not the same injury, but he's week to week all of a sudden again. I mean, it's tough to be very optimistic about Chris Godwin right now. He played over 75% of the snaps the last couple of weeks, but man. How do you feel about Rashee Rice? Walter has him ranked wide receiver 2 rest of the season. Yeah, Austin, I don't know how you don't feel amazing about Rashee Rice right now. Mahomes is playing at like pretty much an MVP level. And we have 1 game left until Rashee Rice is back. I'll get to this Chiefs team in a second here on this live. But yeah, he projects as a top 5 wide receiver every single week the rest of the season. Rashee Rice was absolutely balling last year before his injury. If you exclude this game, I think he was the wide receiver 3 or 4 last season. His last full game, the last full game we saw from Rashee Rice, he had 12 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, he projects amazing. He was at 3.6 yards per route run last season. There was very few guys ahead of him there. Puka Nacua was the only guy ahead of him. I think that Amari Cooper number is actually wrong. The only receiver more efficient than Rashee Rice last year was Puka Nacua. All right, let's keep going through these games. But yeah, we're starting Egbuka. We're starting Rachaad White against the 49ers. They're both in great roles right now with all the injuries to the Buccaneers offense. All right, we're jumping around a little bit here. Cardinals and Colts. I'm seeing some people, why are we benching Michael Carter? Why do I have Michael Carter as a must bench? I think he's a bit of a trap. He had 18 points last week. I think 18.8 points last week. But that was against the Titans. The Titans ranked bottom 3 against running backs this season. And now he gets the Colts, who ranked 6th best against running backs this season. What is the ceiling for Michael Carter? He's in a 3-way backfield. Bam Knight is mixing in. Amari Mercado is still going to play. He had a huge mistake that cost him the game last week. Still going to play. We haven't seen a running back go for more than 16.5 points against this Colts run defense. This Colts run defense, I do think, is just a little underrated. Achane did it. By the way, he was the guy that went for 16.5. Dobbins had 15.5. Kyron Williams only had 10.4. Genty last week, he did go over 100 total yards, but only 15.9 points. Like Genty is going for 16 points. What's Michael Carter going to be able to do here? like 12, 13 points, I think is going to be a good outcome here for Michael Carter. It is not the type of guy I want to be starting. Is Debo going to play Monday? I do think Debo plays. Yeah, I would be starting Debo and trusting that Debo plays. Debo Samuel, by the way, he's on pace for his highest target rate in his career. So I accidentally left Marvin Harrison Jr. off the wide receiver rank, so I got to touch on him. He's definitely a start this week, like lean towards start here for Marvin Harrison Jr. Starting to pick up some steam. He started the game so well last week, then he kind of just get phased out. I'm not on the team that thinks Jacoby Brissett's going to be this big boost for Marvin Harrison Jr., but I could at least see it. I could at least see a world where this is better for Marv. It's not like he's connected great with Kyler. So yeah, I could see it. And I'm fine starting him. The Colts have not been good versus receivers this season. They're bottom 5 versus receivers this season. Just go to the matchup tab on the Walter Picks app. If you're watching live on YouTube, shout out to you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I have on screen how receivers have done against the Colts so far this season. And yeah, I accidentally left Metcalf and Marv off this rankings list. They're both right behind Jacoby Myers in our rankings. I think we have Marv and then Metcalf. Yeah, sorry, Metcalf, then Marv. It's showing properly on the YouTube live too. And a lot of these points against the Colts did come from the Rams. They've actually been okay versus receivers outside of that game versus the Rams. So a little bit of a misleading matchup here. But yeah, I'm still okay starting Marv in a lot of spots. Marv versus George Pickens, Marv versus T. Higgins, Marv versus Jacoby Myers. These are some really, really close calls. I think I'd probably personally go Marv. I'd probably go Marv over T. Higgins with Flacco starting. Marv versus Pickens is a really tough one with the weather in that game. Weatherman Sam's here, and Weatherman Sam's concerned about the Panthers-Cowboys passing attack. Probably enough for me to just say, let's go Marv over Pickens. And then Jacoby Myers is a really tough one for me because all the peripherals have been pretty good for Jacoby. The results have been bad, though. The results have been very bad. Let's compare Marv and Jacoby Myers really quick. I think the peripherals were actually still solid last week. He's at 24% target share. Only a 17% target share last week. That was his second lowest of the season. There was no Bowers and no Michael Mayer in that game. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. Like he's straight up scored less points than Trey Tucker this season. I think Trey Tucker in that one game actually maybe has more points than we've seen from Myers basically all season. Crazy stuff. So yeah, I think I'd probably honestly go Marv over Jacoby too. Jacoby consistently projected better than he's done. Yeah, I do want to start Jennings. DJ Moore versus Kendrick Bourne. Oh man. I think Kendrick Bourne projects better. God, that feels gross to me. Starting Kendrick Bourne over DJ Moore here in week 6. Kendrick Bourne and Trey Tucker and Romeo Doubs all project better than DJ Moore. DJ Moore's been a tough one this season because we know the talent is there. The results have not been there for DJ Moore. He's one game over 10 points this season. Maybe they get him going a little bit more off the bye, but I feel it's just as likely that the Bears get Luther Burden or Colston Loveland going after the bye than DJ Moore, who it seems like just the current regime, the current coaching staff just is not in love with DJ Moore for the Bears. Let me know in the chat, by the way, what's going on in the London time game because we're locked into the live. We're not watching the London time game right now on the live stream. Seems like overall it's been a very gross, disgusting game. Maybe that's why so many of you guys are still tuning in here to the Sunday morning live. I appreciate you, by the way. All right, let's get to the Colts side of this game. So I want to bench the Cardinals running backs. Bench the Cardinals running backs. DK Metcalf, he projects just ahead of Kendrick Bourne, just ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. Can I switch to running backs? Yeah, I got you with the running backs. I accidentally left them off the TikTok list. Appreciate you guys shouting that out. On the Colts side of this game, if it's not going to be Igbuka, guys, it's going to be Tyler Warren that wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. I like him at pretty good odds right now in that market. He's not that far off. Guys, Tyler Warren is not that far off of Brock Bowers' rookie season. He's averaging 61.4 receiving yards per game, Tyler Warren. That's number 1 among tight ends. That's more than Brock Bowers this season. More than Trey McBride. More than Jake Ferguson. He's getting rushing work too. He's going to score more rushing touchdowns. He only has one. He got his first touchdown of his career last week. He scored a rushing one the week before. He's been a top 12 tight end all but 1 week. He's had a really tough schedule, honestly, too. In a much better matchup today. There's very, very few tight ends I want to be starting more than Tyler Warren. I think he's right next to Trey McBride and Jake Ferguson in the ranks today. But man, I mean, crazy that we did see the best rookie tight end season of all time last season. We might see the season immediately after someone beat the best rookie tight end season of all time, and back-to-back rookie tight end seasons of all time would be a real treat. Definitely capable here. And Michael Pittman, he's a good start. I don't want to start Josh Downs. He did have his best game of the season last week. It was 11.4 points. No touchdowns this season. He's behind Tyler Warren. He's behind Jonathan Taylor. He's behind Michael Pittman. It's hard to get very excited about Josh Downs right now. Like, the floor every week is just so low. And what's the ceiling? Like, not a guy that you can feel great about in fantasy, even though I think in real life, he's like one of the better slot receivers in the league. I think he's one of the best slot receivers in the league right now that you still can't really start in fantasy. In the Cardinals, by the way, they've been absolutely crushed by tight ends. Again, there's very few tight ends I want to start more than Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren or Jacoby Myers, honestly, I don't think it's crazy to say Tyler Warren there. Juwan Johnson, he had 16 points. Jatavion Sanders and Tommy Tremble combined for 17.5 points. Jake Tongas, he only had 4.1 points. I think that was Jake Tongas' first start. AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, they combined for over 17 points. Chico Konku and Gunnar Helm, they combined for over 16 points. We've seen over 16 points in all but one game from tight ends. We've seen over 15 points in all but one game from the tight ends against the Cardinals. They're allowing 6.8 catches and 67 yards per game. Those are both bottom 4 in the NFL against tight ends. They've only allowed one touchdown, too. So yeah, you got to feel pretty good about Tyler Warren, I think, in this spot. And Daniel Jones is definitely startable here, too. Definitely startable. Chase Brown and Michael Carter. Gosh. I think I side with Chase Brown on that one. How did the Broncos just score? So chat. How did the Broncos just score? Looks like a Bo Nix passing touchdown to Nate Adkins. Oh, gosh. Dobbins still only has 3 rushing yards, but at least the Broncos are winning now. Bo Nix, we asked if he was good. Earlier on the live, he's 11 for 13, 101 yards and a touchdown. That doesn't seem too bad. These are the starts that I wake up for in the morning. When I wake up in the morning on Sunday mornings, I'm like, are we starting Flournoy or Shepard? This is what gets me going, man. Go to the wide receiver ranks here. I think Flournoy, he did find his way onto the rankings towards the end here. And Shepard actually did too. I think it would be Shepard for me over Flournoy just because of the weather in that game. Flournoy is playing out of the slot. He's coming off a huge game, obviously. 18.4 points, 6 catches, 114 for Flournoy last week. But yeah, I still think I'd go Shepard with no Chris Godwin and the potential game environment here. He did score last week. I think his floor is definitely safer. I don't think his ceiling is that much different. London or White. I'm not benching London. You cannot get me to bench London with Darnell Mooney out. Moving on to the Seahawks Jaguars game. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the entire NFL in the percentage of his team's yards, just receiving yards. He's got almost half of the receiving yards for the Seahawks this season. By the way, Christian McCaffrey still has more catches per game than JSN. Wild stuff. But yeah, we're obviously starting JSN with a ton of confidence. He's having a truly elite season. It's very, very tough at the NFL level when you're going up against a defense that knows that there's only one receiver we have to stop. This one receiver is accounting for 42% of this team's receiving yards. So just stop this one receiver and still you can't stop him. You know, that is the true sign of an elite receiver. When you know the ball is going to him and you still can't stop it. Again, that's the most percentage of a team's receiving yards in the NFL. That's JSN. Trevor Lawrence suddenly is looking like a elite rushing QB for fantasy. He has 17 carries over the last 2 weeks. I think that's the most in the league over the last 2 weeks. It almost has to be 17 rushing attempts. He's over 21% rush share in back-to-back games. He had 38.5% of the Jaguars rushing attempts last week versus the Chiefs. Now he gets an interesting matchup versus the Seahawks, who have at times this season gotten a lot of pressure. At times this season, they've been absolutely cooked. Like last week, 26.7 points allowed to Baker Mayfield. He threw 379 yards and 2 TDs. We haven't really seen a ton of rushing. Kyler Murray had 41 rushing yards. But back-to-back games, the Seahawks have allowed 2 passing touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence is in play. Let me hop over to the QB ranks. He's in play this week for sure. We're playing a Doomsday from Marv, guys, really easily. Really easily. Marv was accidentally left off the list. He should be right ahead of Kendrick Bourne. If you come to the YouTube Live, I have the receiver ranks up. I'll actually switch up the ranks here on the YouTube Live. Let's hop over to the tight end ranks. Tet or London? Yeah, we're going London over Tet. Haskins or DJ Moore? Oh, gosh, I think we kind of have to go Haskins. I think it's Haskins over DJ Moore. Travis Hunter, the arrow's pointing up. I really want to start Travis Hunter this week if I can. It definitely feels like a good opportunity to be starting to start Travis Hunter in the flex. Last week, he only had 9.4 points. It was his best fantasy game of the season. Snap percentage was a season high, career high, 67.2%. His routes were actually the lowest of the season at 19. He only had 3 targets. But the air yards per target, I think, are some reason for optimism. Like some deep targets on the field for Travis Hunter is encouraging. He was at 21.3 yards per reception last week, 3.4 yards per outrun. Those were both season highs. I don't hate Travis Hunter this week. Projects for 41.5 receiving yards. Nate, thanks for the gifts in the TikTok live. Seeing someone ask Fannin or Waller, I'm going Fannin like pretty easily, personally. Go to the running backs. Yeah, I got you with the running backs. We're going Judkins over ETN. Already seen some Brian Thomas Jr. questions today. He's definitely startable. He's coming off his best game of the season. He had 12 points, but he did have 80 yards, 4 catches for 80 yards. Starting to heat up a little bit. He's had at least a 23% target share now in 4 or 5 games. I can get behind Brian Thomas Jr. this week as well. We do have Jawan Jennings and Xavier Worthy projected ahead of him. Those are some tough calls, man. Some really tough calls. I would start both the Chargers receivers over him. Marvin Harrison Jr. should be right ahead of Kendrick Bourne in the ranks. I'd probably go Kenneth Walker over Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter is a bit of a trap this week. Jeff says, "Morning, Sam. Let's go." I think Garrett Wilson missed the plane. Yikes. Yeah, we knew Garrett Wilson, who's going to be in the Pat Surtain box here in this game. Not great. That's not great news. It doesn't look like it may be a single target. Mason Taylor leads the Jets, though, right now in receiving with 1 catch for 2 yards. Justin Fields has 1 yards passing. Gosh. Somehow they're only down by 4 points. Dobbins has 4 carries for 4 yards. So that's rough. BTJ or Pickens? Is BTJ ranked higher because of the wind? Yeah, we did dock the Cowboys passing attack and the Panthers passing attack. And there's 2 other teams as well. The Ravens and the Rams. We docked all of their passing attacks by like at least 2 passing plays because of the 30+ mile an hour wind gusts in those games. Kyron Williams, he ranks as running back 4 against the Ravens. Mac Jones or Daniel Jones? Yeah, I still think it's Daniel Jones just slightly over Mac and Cheese, Mac Jones. All right, let's keep going here. We are on to talk through the Seahawks, Jags, talk through the Cowboys. We actually haven't talked through the Cowboys and Panthers yet. So there's concerning wind in this Cowboys-Panthers game. Let's talk through this really quickly. 30+ mile an hour wind gust. Rico Dowdle revenge game here. Rico Dowdle coming off a 206 rushing yard game. Javante's a must start here versus the Panthers. Tet and Pickens are still startable. It's really tough to bench Tet McMillan. I accidentally left. I'll pull up the wide receiver ranks here again. Accidentally left Marvin Harrison Jr. and DK Metcalf off the list. They should be right here, right after Jacoby. It should go Metcalf, then Marv. So yeah, the weather's really bad here in Carolina. 30+ mile an hour wind gusts. There's going to be rain in both those games too. I didn't mention that because the rain's not nearly as bad as the wind, but there is going to be rain also. It's still tough to bench Tet though. He's playing the Cowboys. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. It's really tough for me to get behind benching Tet. He does have at least 10 points in 4 out of 5 games still. He's still going to lead this Panthers team in receiving. He still has a good matchup. So yeah, I still think we're starting Tet. I still think I lean Tet. Man, I maybe would start a Dunze over him. Maybe we would. I would advocate for moving Tet closer to this Ladd McConkey range, like the wide receiver 12 range. But you got to be aware of the wind. You got to be aware of the wind in this game. 100% got to be aware. Games with wind over 25 miles an hour see significantly lower passing volume, significantly lower passing production. Like, wind over 25 miles an hour is hard to throw in. Pickens is still startable too, I think. Like, he still should also lead the Cowboys passing, but he definitely gets knocked down a decent bit. He's outside the top 20 receivers now. So yeah, we're starting Dowdle in Javonte, I think, with even more confidence. And honestly, this could not, it might impact Jake Ferguson a little bit less. He's been getting a ton of that intermediate short stuff. Jake Ferguson projects as a top 3 tight end right now. Would you flex Tet or Dowdle? Yeah, I'm going Dowdle over Tet. Is Brees cooked right now? He might be. Starting Calvin Ridley because of Collins bye. I think that's fine. Wind in which games? Chat, help. Yeah, so Weatherman Sam's here for you all season, guys. There's significant wind, 30+ mile an hour wind gusts in the Cowboys at Panthers game, in the Rams at Ravens game. I am concerned about the passing attacks in both games from all 4 of those teams. This has been a very ugly game here in London so far. Dobbins up to 9 rushing yards at least. Evan Ingram's got 4 catches for 30 yards. He's breaking out a little bit here, potentially. Dak or Daniel Jones. Yeah, so Dak Prescott's a really tough one for me because I feel like he's ranked too low. Let me hop over to the QB ranks. He feels like he's ranked too low when you look at the ranks and you think about how good Dak's been this season. Dak Prescott, like, quietly having an MVP-like season here. He's averaging 271 passing yards per game. That's the 4th most in the league. Only Brock Purdy, who's missed a couple games, Matthew Stafford and Mac Jones, about two 49ers QBs here in the top passing yards per game. But Dak Prescott really has had a really good season when you consider everything going on around him. Last week was kind of a tough one, but he still threw 4 passing touchdowns. 271 yards and 2 TDs per game for Dak. He ranks as QB 17 though, because again, there's 30+ mile an hour wind gusts in this game, and the Panthers really haven't been a good matchup for quarterbacks. Back-to-back games, we have seen over 22 points from QBs, so there is a ceiling here. Drake May and Tua. Before that, we didn't see really any QBs go over 15 points. They're allowing the 8th fewest passing yards per game, partially because their run defense is so bad. I think you do want to bench Dak in most spots today with the wind. Again, 30+ mile an hour wind gust is rough. Absolutely no need to spam in the YouTube chat. No need to spam. We're going to get to so many comments here coming up very, very shortly. Michelle, start Thornton, Downs, PPR juiced point system. I think it's Downs over Thornton at this point. All right, let's get to the last few games here. We'll get to the DraftKings lineup. We'll get to the official player prop of the day here as well. Talked about Cowboys, Panthers. Already talked about the 49ers, Bucks, Titans, and Raiders. Cam Ward, guys, he's been awful. There's no way around it. I feel like a lot of people are dancing around the fact that Cam Ward has been just straight up awful. Statistically terrible. And we're here to talk about the stats here on the Walter Picks Sunday Morning Live. You know, I got the math hat on as always. The math has not been good, guys, for Cam Ward. He has 1 fantasy game over 10 points. But, outside of the fantasy production, he's at a 52% completion percentage and 5.4 yards per attempt. Those are both outside the top 32 in the NFL. The only quarterback that has been less efficient than Cam Ward is Joe Flacco. And guys, Joe Flacco's numbers are egregiously bad. I mean, it does not get worse. We're going to get to that team in a second. The Bengals. I don't know how you talk yourself into trading for Joe Flacco after the stats we've seen from him this season. I know it's been bad with Jake Browning too, but Cam Ward's been really, really bad. There's been flashes. There's been moments where you can squint and you can see the potential for Cam Ward. He is coming off his most passing yards in a game so far this season. But guys, let's be real. The Titans should not have beaten the Cardinals last week. One of the craziest wins I've ever seen in any sporting event. I mean, this was really one of the craziest comebacks in a game, in any sporting game I've ever watched. Like, it's just crazy that the Titans won this game. So much had to go their way to somehow come back in this game. They had like a 1% win probability in the fourth quarter of this game. So he's been bad. In this game, the Titans are 3.5 point underdogs in Las Vegas. This game's in a dome here. You got to really feel good about Ashton Jeanty in this spot. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games now. Go to the running back ranks here. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games. Now he gets a matchup versus the Titans, who are the third worst defense versus running backs this season. So you got to feel pretty good about that. Didn't score last week, but he had 5 catches for 42 yards. Finally getting involved in the pass game, 19% target share. This is what we expected when we drafted Jeanty in fantasy in the first round. This is what we expected when the Raiders took Jeanty so early in the NFL draft. Like, this is what we see from these types of prospects. Now he's got arguably his best matchup of the season, like even better maybe than this Bears matchup that he had, where he's had 33.5 points, was the running back 1 that week. He's got running back 1 overall upside this week, Ashton Jeanty. The last time we saw a matchup like this for Ashton Jeanty, he was the running back 1 overall. That's the ceiling for him this week. Brock Bowers is out this week, and Michael Mayer is active. Michael Mayer was inactive last week with a concussion when Bowers was out. I think Mayer's like legit option here at tight end. Projects his tight end 12 right now on the week. We have him behind Andrews, Pitts, Fannin, Kelsey. Had him behind Mason Taylor in this London time, this disgusting, gross London time game. I don't know, guys. I don't know how long Justin Fields is going to last. Like, it feels like last week he was teetering on getting benched. The game stayed just close enough. Like 80% of Justin Fields' fantasy points this season have come in the fourth quarter. You just have to pray the Jets keep it close enough that we get some garbage time Justin Fields points every single week. Pretty tough out here right now for the Jets. The only winless team in the NFL here on London time. After the Ashton Jeanty, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, they both project as top 30 receivers. Jacoby Myers still feels startable with the role he's in, but man, hasn't been over 10 points since week 2. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. 3 straight games. He has 4 catches or less. Just not a guy you feel great starting right now. And then Calvin Ridley. I saw some questions about Calvin Ridley in the chat. Brown or Gainwell. God, I don't want to start either of them. I think I would probably go Brown over Gainwell. I want to bench Gainwell for sure. I want to bench Jaylen Warren as well. Calvin Ridley's coming off his best game of the season. He still projects as wide receiver, close to wide receiver 40. 5 catches for 131. I think we might be under projecting Calvin Ridley a little bit here. We have him for a 21% target share. He was at 27% target share last week. The offensive coordinator changed. Not the offensive coordinator. The play caller changed for the Titans in week 4. In week 4, Ridley didn't play a ton. He only had a 54% snap percentage. But he still saw an 18% air yard share, still had 25% targets per route run rate. And then last week, where he actually plays a normal amount of snaps, still actually only 65%. 27% target share, second highest of the season. 168 air yards. This is the Calvin Ridley I thought we were drafting during draft season. He had a 40% air yard share last week. If we can continue to see this type of role for Ridley, he's going to be startable. He's going to have a weekly ceiling. This is the best matchup of the season for Calvin Ridley. This Raiders secondary has been really, really rough. They're allowing 170 receiving yards per game, 14 catches per game to receivers, over a touchdown per game to receivers. Calvin Ridley's got a really stinky ceiling here. We haven't seen any receivers go for 20 plus yet versus the Raiders, but we've seen plenty of guys go for 14 plus. Pittman did it. Adunze did it. Luke McCaffrey did it. Keenan and Quentin did it. And Keyshawn Boutte did it. So Ridley definitely has a shot to go for 15 plus here today. Hop back over to the wide receiver ranks. Okay. I do think Ridley's an interesting flex option. 49ers, we already talked about this one. All right, there's only 3 games left. There's 4 games left. We got the Bengals, Packers, Lions, Chiefs, and then we got 2 Monday night games again this week. Survivor pick of the week, it has to be the Packers against the Bengals. They're 13.5-point favorites, like by far the biggest favorites of the week. It is almost impossible. You don't want to say fully impossible because this is the NFL, but it's almost impossible to see a world here where the Bengals are able to beat the Packers. The Packers are coming off a bye. Flacco stepping in off the street, basically. Like he had 2 or 3 days here to get prepared for his first start, and now he has to go to Lambeau Field. Behind Flacco is going from one awful offensive line to another. And I can't understate just how bad Flacco's been this season. Like, it'd be one thing, like even Flacco's numbers from last year would be one thing. But guys, Joe Flacco, it's really hard to find efficiencies worse than this at quarterback in the NFL. 5.1 yards per attempt, 58% completion percentage, 59 quarterback rating. These are all outside the top 32 among quarterbacks. In good matchups, he played the Bengals. He played the Ravens. He already played the Packers once this season. He had 142 passing yards in that game. He got sacked twice, threw an interception, no touchdowns. The Browns actually beat the Packers in that game behind Quinshon Judkins at a really good defensive performance. But now he has a horrible defense, and it's still a horrible defensive line. Joe Flacco. So yeah, this has to be the survivor pick of the week. It's pretty much a lock. We're moving on to next week. We are 5-0 on the survivor picks so far this season. I have in my own survivor pool, and there's a lot of people knocked out. A lot of people who took that Packers game against the Browns a few weeks back. Chase Brown is startable in PPR. You want to start the Packers offense and defense, by the way, in this game. Like pretty much the whole Packers offense, the whole Packers defense. The Packers defense and the whole Packers offense is startable. Tucker Kraft projects top 5. Matthew Golden is definitely in an interesting spot here as well. Coming out of the bye, there's still no Jaden Reed. Matthew Golden's coming off his best game before the bye. 5 catches, 58 yards. Saw a season high, career high, 17% target share in that game. I would not be surprised at all to see them continue to build on that here against the Bengals. Josh Jacobs projects top 5. Jordan Love projects top 5. Tucker Kraft projects top 5. And then Dobbs and Golden, both startable here. Both interesting flex options here against a really, really bad Bengals defense. Just got to hope the Bengals can keep it just close enough that they will have to throw in this game. Jamar Chase kind of has to be started still. Projects as wide receiver 3. He's coming off a huge game. Even with Browning, he was questionable in this game with an illness. He is going to play. I'm definitely going Bourne over Waller. Can you go to running backs? Yeah, I got you. Yeah, we do have Henderson, I think, just ahead of Haskins. I think I would go Haskins over Henderson personally. I think I would probably play Haskins over Pollard, Haskins over Henderson, Haskins over Gainwell. And then he's probably right in that Ramondre Kamara tier for me. I would be fine going as far as Haskins, like just behind Derrick Henry here at like running back 20. I think I would go Henry over Haskins, but I'm fine going Haskins over Michael Carter, Haskins over Jalen Warren, Haskins over Chase Brown. I'd be fine with all that. The Dolphins, again, they just allowed over 200 yards to Rico Dowdle. And Haskins is not as good as Rico Dowdle. He has a worse offensive line than Rico Dowdle, but he's still probably going to lead the Chargers in rushing today. Dobbins up to 15 rushing yards now in the first half. Justin Fields has 1 passing yard in this game. My God. Chase Brown is startable in PPR. He had 7 catches last week. I mean, in PPR leagues, he's startable. He's not a must start, but he's startable. I probably would personally start him in PPR over the Steelers running backs today against the Browns. T. Higgins projects like okay as well. Maybe Flacco can revive T. Higgins. I could get behind that. I don't think I can get behind Flacco like making the Bengals a real team. I'm not so convinced Flacco is actually going to be that much better than Jake Browning. He's been worse statistically than Jake Browning this season, as bad as Browning's been, at least efficiency wise. Maybe not turnover wise, but efficiency wise, passing. But yeah, maybe T. Higgins will be revived here. Doesn't have a single game with more than 3 catches yet this season. It's been rough out here for T. Higgins, man. Rough. Definitely not a must start, but he projects okay this week. Yeah, the offensive line is absolutely terrible for the Bengals still. Per Schefter, Bam Knight is starting ahead of Michael Carter. Let's see this Shefty bomb here. Bam Knight will start ahead of Michael Carter. This is legit. Gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's rough. It's rough out here. I was already calling Michael Carter a trap. I mean, clearly Shefty agrees. Bam Knight is being reported that he's starting over Michael Carter. Do not start Michael Carter. It was already a good time to bench Michael Carter. He had 18 points last week, but he's in a 3-way backfield in a way more difficult matchup. No thank you to Michael Carter. No thank you. Man, that's rough. That's really, really rough. Kyler Murray officially won't play. Sounds like he has a really rough chance to make it next week as well. 2.8 yards per carry for Michael Carter last week in the early down role. The Cardinals coaches saw enough. He scored a touchdown. He had 5 catches for fantasy, but he was rough, guys. He was not good last week. They saw enough. They're going with Bam Knight. He's at 2.7 yards per carry this season, Michael Carter. He had 18 carries, but only 51 rushing yards. Yeah, 2.8 yards per carry. He's not good. Bam Knight's not good either. Like, this team's going to struggle, man. This team's really going to struggle. So, yeah, we're benching Michael Carter pretty easily here in week 6. Matt. Hey, Matt. Good to see you, man. Appreciate you supporting the live. Hopefully you're not sweating the J.K. Dobbins rushing line on this gross London time game like I am. So is Bam Knight a start now? No, Luca, Bam Knight's not a start either. Is he a better start now than Michael Carter? I could get behind that. I don't think that's saying that much, though. Again, just look at the matchup for the Cardinals. It's not like Michael Carter's not going to play, too. This is still going to be a 3-way backfield. Last week, let's see how much Bam Knight played last week. Last week, I think he had 11 rushing yards. He did score a rushing touchdown. Yeah, he had 4 carries and a target. So he got 5 opportunities in his backfield. He played 16% of the snaps. This is the floor for Michael Carter's role. He's still going to get work in this offense. But just on top of all this, guys, this matchup versus the Colts, it is not a good matchup. We just saw Genti have 16 points against them. Like, the ceiling we've seen from a running back is 16 points. They're only allowing 18 points per game to running backs. That's the 6th fewest in the NFL. And you're getting a 3-way backfield between Bam Knight. Like, if Bam Knight is starting over you, that's a really, really rough sign, man. Really rough. And he was better last week. He's actually the same. 2.8 yards per carry. Gosh. Jacoby Brissett starting. I mean, are they even going to score on the ground today? Probably not. None of these guys are starts. With Judkins, Rashad White, Judkins, Ladd, or Jennings. Yeah, these are all really, really good spots. I think Rashad White, he projects just ahead of Judkins, and then Ladd projects ahead of Jennings. So let's just compare these two. Ladd versus Rashad White. The floor for Rashad White is really good. Yeah, it's Rashad White. All right, a couple more games to talk to really quick. just talk through the Bengals-Packers game. So the Lions-Chiefs, the last game without Rashee Rice here. Someone mentioned earlier, we have Rashee Rice up to wide receiver 2 in the rest of season ranks right now. In the Walter Picks app, this is the last week without him. The last game we saw from Rashee Rice, he had 12 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. This is the highest over-under of the week by far, 52.5 point over-under in this game between the Chiefs and the Lions. You want players in this game. This is the type of game environment we want our fantasy players playing in. This is the night game tonight. Should be a really fun one. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5 in this one. Start players in this game. Pat Mahomes, by the way, he leads the Chiefs in rushing this season. Kyler Murray is the only other quarterback right now to lead his team in rushing. Obviously, that will change probably sometime soon if Kyler Murray continues to miss some games. That also says a lot, though, about the Cardinals running back situation. It says a ton about the Chiefs running back situation right now, too, and Mahomes. 60 rushing yards last week. He now has 3 games over 55 rushing yards. He's QB5 in rushing yards per game. Only Jaden Daniels, Lamar, Josh Allen, and Justin Fields are ahead of Mahomes in rushing yards per game. Wild stuff. A true MVP-like stat line so far from Mahomes if they can turn it around and get some wins this season. They are projected to win here versus the Lions. But yeah, you're starting Mahomes very easily. Kelsey's a pretty good start. Xavier Worthy projects really well. None of the other receivers can really be trusted. And then on the line side of the game, I don't know how we start Jameson Williams right now, even in this game environment. Like, this is the game environment we should go into and say, you got to start Jameson Williams, right? The ceiling is extremely high for Jameson Williams in a game environment like this. But man, I mean, this is as boom bust as it gets, as start sit headache as it gets. He has 1 game over 7 points this season. In that game, he had 2 catches, ended up going for 108 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's the ceiling every week. And we've been saying it for Jameson Williams for quite some time now. Well, what happens in these games where he gets 5, 6 catches? Like, he could absolutely explode. We just haven't seen a game like that yet. The Chiefs have not been a great matchup for the receivers either. Jameson Williams right now, he projects behind Tez Johnson, behind Dontavian Wicks, Sterling Shepard. Like, these are the guys he projects worse than. And it's hard to capture Jameson Williams in like a median projection because he is such a boom bust guy. But the Chiefs have been really good versus receivers. Brian Thomas only had 12 points last week. We saw Zay Flowers go for just 14. I think this was the game that Neighbors got hurt against the Chiefs. Maybe it was the week after that. He only had 3 points. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, both 1 under 10. We haven't seen a good game receiver-wise versus the Chiefs since week 1 in the Chargers receivers, who all went over 13 points. But yeah, I don't feel good at all about Jameson Williams this week. I have him on the must-bench list. Like, I just don't know how you could possibly feel good starting him when Tez Johnson, when Sterling Shepard is projecting better than him, even in a game with a 52.5 point over-under. Two games left. Bills at Falcons. No Darnell Mooney this week, which makes Kyle Pitts startable. That being said, we haven't really seen tight ends do well versus the Bills. So he's a good start, but not a must start, I think, Kyle Pitts. We have Jake Tungus projected like pretty easily ahead of him. I would start Tungus over Pitts. Bijan leads all running backs in route participation this season. If you're just straight up asking what running back you want the most rest of the season, like Bijan's got to be considered still in that list with the role that he has right now. 80% route participation. It's even higher than McCaffrey, who we touched on it earlier in the live. He's the second most catches per game in the entire NFL. Only Puka Nacua, who has an all-time record catches through the first 5 weeks, has more catches per game than McCaffrey. But man, this role for Bijan is elite. Hard not to rank him as a top 3 player this week. James Cook, is he starting to look a little risky? He was on my do not draft list, which I regret. He had 4 straight amazing games, over 20 points, 4 straight games to open the season. Last week, though, against the Pats, and guys, this Pats run defense is good. It is one of the best run defenses in the league. The Patriots defense really is getting underrated, I think, right now. Still, it's really shocked they're only 3.5 point favorites versus the Saints today. But the Falcons, they rank number 1 versus running backs this season. Number 1. No defense has allowed fewer points per game to running backs than the Falcons. It's not like they haven't played decent running backs. They played Bucky Irving in week 1. He had a season high against the Falcons at 14.5 points. Chuba Hubbard and Dowdle, they did okay. The Vikings running backs did nothing. The Commanders running backs did nothing against the Falcons defense. Bourne or Pollard, I think I'd probably go Bourne there. JCM or Rashad White? Yeah, we're going Rashad White for sure. I do really like the Pats defense today. We pulled the defenses, haven't shown them yet. But yeah, you kind of have to start James Cook if you have him. Still ranks as a top 10 running back. Not that risky. The floor, we saw the floor last week though, and it is a tough matchup again. Morning, Sam. Am I starting Haskins or Monty? Monty stack has been fruitful. Just concerned about Chiefs matchup. Already starting Gibbs and Chase Brown, full PPR. Yeah, like I would start Haskins over Chase Brown. I know I was telling people last week to start Kendre Miller over Chase Brown. Fantasy points wise, that didn't turn out great because Chase Brown had 7 catches. But man, I don't know how we don't feel like decent about Haskins here. I think we're under projecting him a little bit in the Walter Picks app. Bless you. Thank you. But when you peek at the matchup tab for the Dolphins against these running backs, like, oh my God, 133 rushing yards allowed per game. That's second worst in the league. I don't need to read the Rico Dowdle stat line again here on the live. 206 rushing yards. The concern for Haskins is just the offensive line for the Chargers. It's not good right now. They're missing 3 key starters on the offensive line. They've been playing at a bottom 10 level. But yeah, Haskins, he's probably getting at least 12 carries in this game today. But Kamani Vidal is going to mix in. I think Kamani Vidal has the higher ceiling because he's the better receiving back of the two. Only 7 routes for Haskins last week, but he was the first running back on the field. After the Hampton injury, I'd be fine starting him over Chase Brown. This is not a great matchup for Chase Brown against the Packers. Like, you're just banking on him getting some dump off catches, but like the touchdown ceiling is really, really low. The rushing ceiling is extremely low. The floor rushing wise is, well, we've seen it. I mean, 27 rushing yards last week, only 8 carries. Samaje Perine was like in an even split with him last week too. I followed Brody. Thanks, man. Yeah, hit the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Do appreciate it. It helps me out a ton. Should I start Marv or BTJ with Kyler out? Yeah, it's a close call. Definitely a really, really close one. I think you go BTJ. Yeah, so Marv and DK, I accidentally left off the wide receiver rankings on the TikTok live, but they're right behind Jacoby Myers here. I would go Brian Thomas Jr. over Marv. There's some people out there who think Jacoby Brissett's actually going to be a benefit for Marv. I'm not fully on that. The Jets have 1 yard of offense. Is that real? Oh, no, they're past a yard now. Gosh. Garrett Wilson apparently did not miss the bus. He's got 1 catch for 2 yards. Brees averaging 2.6 yards per carry. And Justin Fields has 6 passing attempts for 11 yards. Big time yikes. It's a big time yikes. And the Jets are punting. Almost halftime here. All right, there's only one other game to talk about briefly. We talked about the Chiefs and the Lions. Talked about the Bills and the Falcons. Bears and Commanders. Rome Odunze is the only player with a touchdown in every game this season. Only player, running back and receiver. Debo ranks top 12 in target share. There's no McLaurin and there's no Noah Brown in this game. Debo's technically questionable. He's on the right side of questionable, though, in my opinion. You kind of have to have some faith for Debo. Ranks as wide receiver 8, just ahead of Odunze. I'd probably start Odunze and Keenan and Waddle over him. But yeah, he's right in this Ladd McConkey top 12 wide receiver tier, and he's in one of the best roles, arguably the best role he's been in his whole career. With the injuries to McLaurin, he's at 28.4% target share. He's at a 30.2% target per route run rate. That's 8th highest in the league. That's the highest of his career. Only guys getting targeted more per route than Deebo Samuel this season. Mike Evans and Tyreek, they're both hurt. Olave, Worthy, Diggs, JSN, and Puka. I didn't mention this when we talked about the receivers. When we talked about the Pats. Guys, Steph Diggs, the only player that's been more efficient per route run than Diggs, JSN and Puka. End of list. Then it's Diggs. There's only 3 receivers over 3 yards per route run this season. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, and Stephon Diggs. On a per route basis, man, there's very few guys doing what Stephon Diggs is doing. 85% catch rate. He's getting targeted on a third of his routes. He's just running fewer routes than most guys in the league right now. Only 50% snap percentage last week, still 10 catches, 146. Really playing at an elite level right now, Stephon Diggs. It seems like the Patriots' strategy of not pushing Diggs every single snap is working really well. When he's out there, he's producing. Yeah, Deebo's a must start in this game. Adunze's a must start. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is a good start in this game too. If you guys missed it, I was singing Bill Nye, Science Guy earlier in the live. I don't think I can do that twice in a live. I think that's the rules. But he projects a top 16 running back here in week 6, coming off by far his best game of the season. 111 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He saw his highest rush share of the season, 50% rush share. The ceiling for him is extremely high if he's going to see this type of role. 14 carries. If we can lock in 14 carries for Bill every single week, we're going to start him confidently every single week. We're going to have our guest joining live here shortly as we start the start-sit segment of this live stream. He's going to help us answer some start-sit questions. Pumped to have him on. None other than Samps, our Falcons creator, longtime member of the Walter Picks projections team, and the writer of many of the write-ups you guys see in the Walter Picks app. I'm going to bring him on here. Samps, man, how we doing?
Doing well. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this London game, but it's been an absolute disaster. The Jets just ran a fake punt. It was the most obvious fake punt ever. Breece Hall was on the field, so the Broncos knew it was coming, but still couldn't stop it. They say the tush push. They say it did. They say the tush push isn't football, but what I've seen in London this morning isn't football either. So it's been bad.
Wow. Yeah, I'm fortunate to be live streaming during the game. I've seen very, very little of the game. The stats have not painted a very pretty picture, though, to say the least. The Dobbins rushing prop feels still alive, maybe, but rough. 2.1 yards per carry so far for Dobbins on 7 carries. But Sam's, how are we doing here heading into week 6?
Feeling good. I think this is a very interesting fantasy week. We'll get into that in a second with some of the specific benches and starts that I've come prepared with. But I think there's some interesting games today. I think Sunday night's going to be a nice cherry on top. Lions Chiefs is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm feeling good here in week 6 too. I think there's some really tough start sits this week at tight end. I think the quarterback start sits. There's like a huge tier at quarterback. I was saying earlier in the live, we got QB4 to QB14 are all projected within 1 point of each other. So some really tough QB start sits for sure. We got like some very strange guys that don't feel great to start over some guys you drafted higher, guys like Jake Tongus, Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Guys that are really in, pretty good spots today. We'll talk about the Cardinals running backs here, I'm sure too, but we are in the start sit segment of the live. Let me just talk through really quick before we jump in my DraftKings lineup and my free player prop of the day. And then we can get to the start sits. But we have been, I think every single week, this is a tournament DraftKings lineup. So in tournaments, how it goes is you lose and you lose and you lose. And then eventually you get one big win. Like that's the tournament strategy. So losing some weeks with the tournament lineup, it's expected. We're not going to win the tournaments every week, obviously. This week, I'm doing something I really haven't done yet this season, and I'm not stacking with my quarterback. I'm going with Drake May. I'm going with Dowdle and Haskins. There's a positive Haskins report that came out during this live stream after I set this lineup in. I'm playing the top 2 receivers in the Walter Picks ranks today. Puka and Egbuka are in this lineup, both projected in really good roles. I'm a little bit nervous for Puka with the weather report in that game, but he's got 9 straight 7-catch games. He's like has a real shot to break the all-time record for that statistic with, I think, 3 more games there. He already has the all-time record for the most catches ever through through the first 5 games. Just like an unprojectable guy right now. He's gotten over 20 points every single game. I'm going with Shaheed against Drake May. I think Olave could get shut down today against the Pats defense. I want to talk to you about that game for sure coming up here in a second too, Samps, because I'm always very cautious when I'm overly optimistic about the Patriots as a fan, but I was a little surprised by that spread. I'm going with Judkins, Michael Mayer paying down at tight end, and then the Packers defense here. That is the DraftKings lineup for the day. And then the free player prop that I'm riding with today, it's Harold Fannin, over 3.5 receptions, and Matthew Golden, over 3.5 receptions. 2 rookies here, both at plus odds. They're both around plus 150 odds here today in week 6. We saw over a 30% target share to the tight ends from Dylan Gabriel last week. I think we're going to see something similar again here for the Browns this week. This game, the spread to me was a little surprising too. The Steelers are getting a lot of respect in this game. 6.5 point favorites here versus the Browns in a game where they clearly have a worse defense than the Browns. But we've seen the Steelers really struggle versus tight ends so far this season. They're allowing 5 catches, 62.5 yards per game. So I like the odds here for Fannin. And then Matthew Golden, he beat this in his last game. Now he's coming off the bye in a matchup versus the Bengals. You just got to hope there's enough pass attempts to go around here in this spot. But if there are, I mean, he's beat this back-to-back games. You're getting plus 150 odds. Feels pretty good to me with Matthew Golden. So those are the 2 free player props. I'm not hiding behind minus 200 odds here. We're going for 2 plus odd props as the free player props of the day. All right, let's get to the start sit segment. Before we jump into the actual comments, someone asked me to show defense. Let me pull up the defense ranks here. Before we get into the actual comments, Samps, I want to give you a chance to talk through. I think I asked for 1 must start, 1 must bench player this week. I'm interested to hear what you got there.
Okay, so we'll start with the positive must start. I think in light of the Quentin Johnston news, I thought Ladd McConkey looked pretty good last week. He had a punt return that was called back. He would have had 20 fantasy points. Obviously, you're not going to get a punt return every single week, but I think with Quentin out, they're going to have Keenan line up outside more, and Ladd's going to get pretty much the full complement of slot role. No, the O-line's bad, but I'm not worried about the Dolphins' defensive line. I think Ladd's going to see 8, 9 targets in this game, especially if it's competitive, and I think he has a good chance to score today. So I like Ladd McConkey as a must start.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, there's not been many weeks where we can confidently say Ladd is must start. And I think I've been more bullish on this live stream on Ladd than has been smart to be. Yeah, I mean, he's been under 10 points in 3 of his last 4 games. Last week was his first game with a touchdown. Definitely could keep that streak going. It's been hard for me to wrap my head around the Chargers wide receiver situation. I think I should have adapted faster than I did to just Quentin Johnston just straight up being the wide receiver 1 on this team.
Yeah.
But you don't see what Ladd did as a rookie last season and not be really, really good in fantasy and in real life. I mean, down the stretch last season, he had 34.7 points in their playoff game, 9 catches, 197 and a touchdown. But he was looking like a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL in the back half of his rookie season. I still think that that's his weekly ceiling. He's a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. And yeah, Herbert's been cooking. The offensive line, like you mentioned, it's been bad. But against the Dolphins, you can't be too scared here against the Dolphins. Plus, their running back situation is pretty murky as well. I'm sure we're going to get to a ton of Haskins questions, who I think I'm starting to believe in. I put him in my DraftKings lineup just with what we saw against the Dolphins last week. But yeah, who's your must bench going to the negative side?
So I kind of cheated. I picked 2. So my first one, I'm sure you saw the report while live, but they're saying Bam Knight's going to take a majority, like the starter role for the Cardinals. So I think Michael Carter's an absolute bench, especially in the bad matchup. I think Michael Carter's someone you have to bench. I'm in a league where I'm even starting Travion Henderson over him, and I don't love it, but I think that's what the right move is. And my other must bench is Zay Flowers. Shoulder injury. They said he's going to play less snaps than usual. That might be a Cooper Rush in this matchup thing as much as it is a shoulder thing. With that wind and the rain that's supposed to come in, I just can't stomach Michael Carter in that first game and then Zay Flowers in the second game.
Yeah, 2 very good bench call outs there. Let's talk about the Michael Carter one first. I'm seeing comments on the TikTok live, comments on the YouTube live saying, is Bam Knight a start now? And no, Bam Knight is not a start now. You cannot talk me into starting Bam Knight here in week 6. Like, you got to be really down bad, I think, to start Bam Knight. I would definitely rather start Hassan Haskins over all the Cardinals running backs. The thing that's getting, I think, lost with the Cardinals running backs, I had Michael Carter as a must bench on this TikTok live that, we're 2.5, 3 hours into the live stream now. I had him as a must bench before that report came out. And the report was definitely a little surprising. Both Michael Carter and Bam Knight were at 2.8 yards per carry last week in a good matchup. Last week,
Yep.
Last week they played the Titans, who rank third worst against running backs this season. Now they get the Colts, and the Colts have actually been really good against running backs this season. Like the ceiling for these guys is extremely low. We've seen the ceiling. It's like 16 points. That's like the ultimate ceiling. They're going to have to score a touchdown and get catches to do that. Like, I don't think they're hitting the ceiling in this game. The floor is under 5 points for every single running back, I think, in this backfield. It seems like there's a lot of Kyler Murray hate out there. Kyler Murray has not been good this season. It feels like there's a lot of people out there that suddenly think there's going to be a boost to the offense with Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if I'm fully behind that. As bad as Kyler's been, and he's been pretty bad, I don't think we can just assume Jacoby Brissett boosts any offense. If anything, it could, I think, get pretty ugly here for the Cardinals. So I'm definitely with you on, I think, bench all the Cardinals running backs. I want nothing to do with any of the Cardinals running backs here in week 6. And maybe, like we saw, I had the Michael Carter as a trap last week. It obviously, production-wise, didn't end up panning out as a great bench last week. But yeah, these guys are definitely traps here in this matchup. It's a 3-way backfield in an offense that really could struggle. Going to Zay Flowers now, Weatherman Sam, has been on the weather report all season. This is really the first week all season where we have a game that we're concerned about. And there's 2 games, actually, that we're concerned about here. You mentioned one of them. There's going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour. There's also rain in both these games. I actually didn't even put that on my weather report because I don't really care as much about the rain. But when you have these confounding factors, it is worth mentioning. There's also rain in both these games, the Cowboys at Panthers and the Rams at Ravens. And we have Lamar not playing. That looked as ugly as it gets last week. See, I don't know how you could possibly trust Zay Flowers in this spot. Let me just talk through some names for both these guys that I would start over Michael Carter and the Cardinals running backs, and then we'll talk about Zay Flowers as well. Yeah, so for the running backs, like Hassan Haskins, Tony Pollard, Trevion Henderson, all I think are pretty clear starts over the Cardinals running backs. I think it gets pretty tough. Chase Brown, I'm seeing a ton of Chase Brown starts hits. I'd probably start him as well, but I really don't feel good starting Chase Brown. Both Seahawks running backs I would start over the Cardinals running backs. Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren, where are you at with them over the Cardinals running backs? They get the Browns here in week 6.
I think it sounds kind of crazy, but in a PPR setting, the way Aaron Rodgers has been playing against that run defense, I kind of think they're both going to be in line for 4 or 5 receptions, which could be a good fantasy day, especially if one of them gets in the end zone. Deep leagues, maybe Kenneth Gainwell's that goal line guy. Seemed like he had the role week 1, did
Yeah.
well last week or 2 weeks ago before the bye. I don't love either of them, but like I could talk myself into them over Michael Carter being named the backup with Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback.
Yeah, I
Bam
mean,
Knight
I
being
think the
started.
bottom line is Michael Carter specifically cannot be started. I really don't think you can trust Bam Knight either, and that just yeah, you got to find another option. Tyler Algier, Sean Tucker, like looking at guys like that like it's pretty close. I think you probably do.
Oh man.
You probably do play everyone like Kendre Miller and above over these Cardinals running backs. And then at receiver, so Zay Flowers, we hop over to the receiver ranks here on the live. I had the defense ranks up here for a second. So I'll pull up the wide receiver rankings. Zay Flowers, it's been a tale of 2 seasons for him. He started the season. It looked like he might be a top 5 receiver in fantasy this year. That's how good it started for Zay Flowers. He ranks as wide receiver 32 for us in the app. So a little bit higher than a must bench list. But you made several fair points here. He had 12 points last week with Cooper Rush, 5 for 72. I think most of that came on just a couple of plays, a 25% target share. He's hit that now in 4 or 5 games. The volume's been good, but yeah, like what's the real ceiling here without Lamar? 30 plus mile an hour wind gusts. Like it's going to be all after the catch production here from Flowers. It's going to be almost impossible to rely on a deep passing game in this one. But yeah, what receivers around him here that you see on the screen here? Would you start Shakir over him? I probably would start Shakir.
I might be just a known Shakir hater. I don't love Shakir, but I think to me the Zay Flowers injury and the fact that they said he's going to play less snaps is an addition where it's just like you can't start him. Um, that came out. I think it was maybe it's Rappaport or something like that. But I would definitely go Matthew Golden over him, who was 2 below.
Yeah,
I couldn't help
crazy.
but notice you picked 2 of my favorite rookies for your props. I can't help but think that was intentional. I think DJ Moore is it's really tough to be like, let's fire up DJ Moore, but
Yeah,
one of these weeks he's going to have a good game, and it
yeah,
could be this week.
yeah. There's
Um,
been a decent amount of DJ Moore starts. It's definitely in the chat here on the Sunday Morning Live in week 6 too. And like I think one of DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. Wouldn't be surprised to see one of these guys get a bit more unlocked after the bye with Ben Johnson. But man, it could be any of those guys. Like DJ Moore, it's not like it's easy to trust him. But to your point, I mean, at least there's no report that he's playing a limited number of snaps in a game on top of that with 30 plus mile an hour wind gusts. Like there's a lot working against Zay Flowers in this one. So yeah, that's definitely totally fair. Calvin Ridley, how about him versus Zay Flowers? I think he projects a little low for us, honestly, after last week, but obviously really rough before that. He had 5 for 131.
I think I'd go Ridley.
Yeah, I think I would be down for that too. Again, he's not playing in 30 plus mile an hour wind gusts. He's playing in a dome here in week 6.
Yeah.
Much different game environment just for that. He's also healthier than Zay, and he's been battling injuries too. I think last week he was technically questionable, ended up having his best game of the season. To me, the optimism too for Ridley, they changed their play caller in week 4, and Ridley didn't really play that much in week 4, but in week 5 with the new play caller, like this was the Ridley that I was excited to draft, right? This is the role that I wanted. 168 air yards. Like he was top 5 in air yards last week. Like we need our air yards king back, and some catchable air yards for Calvin Ridley could go a long way. He led the NFL last year in uncatchable air yards. So it was kind of a misleading air yards king for us last year, but this is also the best passing game matchup for the Titans so far this season. The floor is still low though, man. The floor is definitely still low for Ridley. How about Cooper Kupp? Would you start Cooper Kupp over Zay Flowers?
I think it would go against saying Zay's a must bench to not say I'd play Cooper Kupp over him. I think that game today is going to be an exciting one. I think Cooper Kupp does have like a 10-point. I mean, I'll take a 10 points that I'm confident in than Zay Flowers maybe goose egging or, not playing at all. So it's kind of, there's a lot of, this is a gross section. We talk about in the projections calls all the time. There's sections where it's just like, I don't want to touch any of these guys with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, let's talk about, maybe this is a good line to draw here. Jameson Williams versus Zay Flowers. If we are both on board, and I think I agree with you, the floor for Zay Flowers is probably under 5 points. Like the floor is under 5. If he's going to play a limited number of snaps, there's 30 plus mile an hour winds, it's raining, and he's got Cooper Rush at quarterback. Like the floor is definitely under 5 points. And like, that's the story I could tell myself to start Jameson Williams in a spot like that, where we know the floor for Jameson Williams is also under 5 points. He had 2 points last week. He has 2 catches or fewer in 4 straight games. But we know there's a ceiling on one of those catches every single week where he go over 100 yards and a touchdown, and a huge game environment tonight too. Better weather, but also the highest over under of the week here between the Lions and the Chiefs. So yeah, I think I could get behind Jameson Williams over Zay. Would you agree with that one too?
100%. On the projections call this week, I kind of was adamant that I think Jameson Williams should be someone we add as a trade for candidate. The next few matchups are competitive ones, and I think that's where Jameson Williams can thrive. And Sunday night against the Chiefs, can't you see Jameson Williams having 2 deep bomb touchdowns? I can see it, especially in a game that's probably going to be pretty competitive with the injuries to the secondary of Detroit. I like Jameson. I'd play him, like you just said, similar floor as Zay. Why not let the ceiling go
Yes,
with Jameson?
It's definitely a good buy low shout for sure. When we going into the season, I think we were definitely higher on Jameson Williams than what we've seen, but we knew he was going to be a boom bust option. I mean, we've just seen more bust than boom yet so far this season. It's not like there's been no boom. We have seen at least one boom game, but the playing time has been there. He's playing over 80% of the snaps. Like I don't think he's in that much different of a situation than we expected at the beginning of the season. He's just had several bust games rather than boom games so far. But then you look at the schedule here. Highest over under the week versus the Chiefs, pass funnel game versus the Buccaneers, then bye, tough game versus the Vikings, then pretty much all green rest of the way.
Yep.
Matchup wise, I mean, there's probably going to be plenty of boom games here down the stretch for Jameson Williams. Definitely an interesting buy low. I think in some leagues, people are struggling just to not drop him right now.
Yeah.
So like, it's a true buy low opportunity for sure. All right. That was the must starts, must benches from Samps. We're benching Zay Flowers. We're benching Michael Carter. I agree with both those. And in the answer here, Trey, Michael Carter or Bam Knight, it's neither. Find another option. I think Samson and I probably both agree that it's Bam Knight over Michael Carter at this point.
Yes.
Report like Bam Knight is going to get more work than Michael Carter. If you guys are just joining the live, by the way, we are in the start sit segment of the live here with Samps. Hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. We are live every single Sunday morning. We got multiple videos posting on this YouTube channel every single week. If you're watching live on TikTok, smash the follow button. And we are going to get to tons of start sit questions now here on the live with Samps. helping me out. All right, dealing with a lot of injuries this week. You are not alone. Would you start Sterling Shepard or over JMO or Cup? Oh man, yeah. The Sterling Shepard questions are really getting to me this week because the role should be there. There's no Chris Godwin this week. There's no Mike Evans. There's no Bucky Irving. And this game, actually, like the game environment, let me add Cup to this, isn't terrible. Like the 49ers that we saw last week, Sam Darnold, he threw for 4 touchdowns, over 300 pass yards versus the Bucs. Mac Jones, I think, is going to keep this game pretty exciting and competitive. Cooper Kupp projects the best here, pretty much across the board, though. I think I probably lean with Walter on this one. Would you be starting Sterling Shepard? I know you're a Giants fan, Sam. Seeing week 6 here of 2025, seeing Sterling Shepard in a legit start-sit question must be pretty strange. But yeah, which side are you going here? Are you going for the ceiling with JMO, or would you start Shepard here?
I think it really depends on the matchup. When I'm on TikTok lives on my own, I normally, when I answer questions like this, I'm like, if you're projected to lose, I would probably go with Jameson Williams. If you're projected to win, I'd go with either Shepard or Cooper Kupp. And I do think Shepard and Baker have a good rapport. They played college ball together. They're very good. Like that's the reason he went to the Bucks in the first place. I honestly think I would go with Sterling Shepard here. And also, what's up, Sammy, in the chat? He's in my TikTok lives all the time. He said hey to me 3 times, so just get that in there. What's up, man? But yeah, I think I go Sterling Shepard if I'm in a matchup where I'm making a good spot, like I'm projected to win. Just put Shepard out there because if he scores, he's going to drop you 14, 15 points maybe, and I think that's pretty solid. He was a coach for the Giants basically for 2 years. I am shocked to see him right now.
He had a 41% snap share last week, still had 12 points. That was with Godwin in the lineup. Godwin played the last 2 weeks. And he has Godwin's injury, apparently a fibula injury that's unrelated to his previous fibula injury, which is
Not good.
But it's the same leg, right? I believe it's not a different.
I think so.
You only have one fibula in each leg. I don't really like, how is it not somewhat related to the previous injury? I definitely really concerned for Godwin at this point with his trajectory with the injury stuff. But yeah, Sterling Shepard has a long-time connection with Baker Mayfield, right? College teammates, I believe.
Yes, they were.
They have the college teammate narrative. He's got over a 10% target share in every game this season. This includes games with Godwin and Evans. So yeah, the floor is not that bad for Sterling. I agree, though. I think this is a floor ceiling decision. I'm fine going Shepard over Kupp. I think their floors are somewhat similar, but the ceiling here is with Jameson Williams. I disagree with the boom probabilities here a little bit. I would say Jameson Williams is the high ceiling of the group. But yeah, I think I'm with Samps. If you're in a close game, I'm fine going Shepard there as well. Definitely a tough one. I want to get to this running back one from the YouTube live, from the TikTok live. And then we can get to this one next in the YouTube live. But the running back starts it here is Rachaad White versus Rico Dowdle. You know, a win-win situation, I would argue here. You know, 2 good options, which we love to see here on the Sunday morning lives. But I don't think this one's easy between Dowdle and Rachaad White. Dowdle in the revenge game against the Cowboys, coming off a 206 rushing yard game versus the Dolphins in a game with 30+ mile an hour winds. That's not going to lead to less rushing here for the Panthers. Tough guy to bench, but then Rachaad White without Bucky Irving, he's coming off a great game as well. And in a pretty good game environment, he had 23 points last week. Scored twice though. Which side are you going with here? You with Walter on this one, Samps?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you and say it is easy. I'm going with Rico Dowdle pretty quick. I've answered this one a bunch on my TikTok. It's just revenge game. I'm a big revenge game guy. The Cowboys can't stop a runny nose, and even with the weather helps. Rico looked elite. Like he was I think he might have had the most broken tackles in one game. Maybe Cam Scatterbo broke that on Thursday. I don't know, but Rico Dowdle looked fantastic, and I a lot of people just were able to pick him up last week off of waivers, like for no reason. Chuba was like late ruled out. Now you're just like got a guy who's a dominant starter. He might take the reins here and not give him back. I think there's a world where that's the case.
I think you're right. I think that you really just can't bench Dowdle right now, especially in this spot. There's a few defenses right now that you just need to play your guys against. The Cowboys are certainly one of them. I think the Bengals and the Cowboys come to mind immediately. I think the Dolphins are definitely up there as well. We just saw what happened last week against the Dolphins, but Dowdle didn't come out of nowhere. Dowdle was a legit starter in the NFL last season. For some reason, he had absolutely no traction in the free agent market. Signed like a $2.5 million deal, like almost a near minimum deal in free agency. But he had averaged 12 points a game last year. We saw multiple 20 points games last year behind kind of a tough Cowboys offensive line last season, like was a legit starting running back in the NFL last year. And then the first opportunity he gets to start this year, just a massive, massive game, 9 yards per carry versus the Dolphins. This is why, like, you
Yeah,
kind of,
and it's not like he ran 3 times. He ran a lot,
yeah, he
and
had
he can catch the ball too.
9 yards per carry on 23 carries. It's just not something you see in the NFL. It's part of the reason it's hard for me to not like Haskins just a little bit this week too. But yeah, the revenge game. And I was wrong last week. I was a little surprised that the role was this big for Dowdle. I think partially because he was playing so well. You're averaging 9 yards per carry. You're not going to come off the field. I thought Trevor Etienne was going to mix in more than he did. Like the Panthers, I thought would still kind of have somewhat of a committee. Really wasn't. 72% rush share, 67% snap share. I mean, really solid usage numbers. Yeah, so we're not benching
Well,
Dowdle.
and that would have been even higher because he got banged up for a bit that last game too. Like Trevor Etienne was getting snaps at the end of that game, which I don't think Dave Canales was hoping would be the case.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get to this one here. Dobbs or Trey Tucker in a full PPR. These are the start sits, Samps, that get me up in the morning here on the Sunday morning live. These are the fun ones, man. Dobbs and Trey Tucker. Honestly, they're similar. I think we have Trey Tucker just ahead. Wow, they're 2 spots apart too in the projection. So
It's a pick 'em here.
Walter's gonna have it super close. We talked about this matchup for the Raiders is a pretty good one. The Titans' run defense has been worse though than the pass defense, but neither has been very good. But the thing when you look at the Titans' production too, like it's just all the Rams. Like the Rams, there's a couple defenses out there right now that's like when you look at I think the Colts are another one. Like half the points against receivers just came from the Rams, and it's like obviously not a 1-to-1 comparison here, but we have seen some good games here versus the Titans defense. But if this game is close between the Packers and the Bengals, like at all close, like Jordan Love is still throwing in the fourth quarter close, like at all, like a single pass attempt for Love in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
then you're probably going to want to start Dobbs, I think. He's coming off his best game of the season. He got a great matchup versus the Cowboys, had 3 touchdowns in that one, 6 catches, 58 yards, played 90% of the snaps. I do think Golden gets more involved. He is one of the free player props for me, over 3.5 catches today. But yeah, I think I lean Dobbs over Tucker. Walter likes Tucker, though. Tucker's the guy that had a 40-point game this season. So there is a ceiling there. But I mean, man, I think I lean Dobbs. How about you, Samps?
I'm gonna go with Trey Tucker, and I think it's because of lack of competition. I think Dobbs is more to compete with on that offense in a matchup where they could easily dominate with Josh Jacobs touchdowns to begin that game. I think there's a role where the Titans keep this game with the Raiders competitive, and if
Yeah.
that's the case, Trey Tucker is gonna should have a chance to have a good game. And I do think that the Titans defense is okay. They're on the field all the time, which kind of hurts them.
Yeah.
Their best corner is going to be on Jacoby Myers. And so I think that does open an opportunity up for Trey Tucker in this one. I don't love it. I'm not like chomping at the bit for it, but I think you can definitely start him with some confidence.
Would you start Trey Tucker over Jacoby Myers? Myers has been one of the toughest start sits, I feel like, of the season because his usage isn't bad. We know he's not, a bad player, but we've seen him do worse so far in total this season than Trey Tucker, just straight up. He's not scoring touchdowns either. Would you go Trey Tucker over Jacoby?
I think it's similar, kind of what I said earlier. Depends on your matchup situation. I think if you're looking for a ceiling guy, go with Trey Tucker. I think, as you can see, the boom is not even close between the two. Jacoby Myers isn't anything that we thought he could be. He's had a slew of awesome matchups recently and hasn't taken advantage. So I could be convinced to go Trey Tucker regardless, but the ceiling is Trey Tucker, I think.
Yeah, definitely is a close call. I think I agree with Walter's floor ceiling analysis there as well. We got a start sit here from the TikTok live about Jawan Jennings or Kendrick Bourne, which is definitely both 2 guys I'm seeing a lot of start sits with. Kendrick Bourne coming off a legacy game on Thursday Night Football last week. If only the Patriots found a wide receiver QB connection like this over the past few years, maybe we would have seen something a little bit different from them. But man, crazy to watch Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne connection here for the 49ers. This game last week, though, there was no Jawan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall. And Jennings is going to play this week. These are 2 guys on the same team here. We've seen one good game from Jennings so far this season. We haven't really seen like many real games from him. He's played over 65% of the snaps in 3 games this season. He's had 1 good game, 2 bad games. Man, I don't know how I could get myself to start Bourne over Jennings. I think in one league, I'm going to have to start both of them with some buys and injuries as I wait for Rashee Rice to come back on one of my teams. So that's kind of a easy thing there, just kind of lock up the whole passing game outside of Jake Tongus, who projects really well on this offense this week too. But yeah, is there any world where you're starting Bourne over Jennings?
No, I don't think so. I think if there's no setbacks for Jawan Jennings and he's playing like fully healthy, I think you got to go with him. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a boom probability comparison like the one I'm looking at here, 17.9% to zero point 0.4. That alone is like, all right, we're going with Jawan Jennings with confidence. If this game's competitive, like you said, if you think Mac Jones keeps this game tight, how does Jawan Jennings not have a really good game? I think is what my mindset would be.
Just getting a report here a few minutes ago, I think right around when he joined the live, Garrett Wilson got injured in the Jets game. He's standing on the sideline without his helmet on, apparently. The Jets did get a field goal. It's 10-9 in that game now. I don't know how the Jets have this game within a point. They have 28 passing yards, and Breece Hall's averaging 2.8 yards per carry, but it looks like Garrett Wilson's day might be done at 1 catch and 2 yards here against the Broncos. That is about as rough as it gets here on London time. All right, let's get to a few more here before Samps hops off. Vidal versus Trevion Henderson. Every single guest we've had on this live, Samps, I have to get a Trevion Henderson question in because as you know, as a member of the projections team, which I am obviously also a member of, Henderson's been one of my biggest L's this season. I mean, I couldn't have been higher on him, I don't think, heading into the season. In one of my high stakes leagues, I took Henderson in the second round. This is a 14-team league, but I drafted the Patriots running back 3 in the second round. And now Gibson's hurt. Gibson is hurt. So like that should be good for Henderson, but he has not looked good. I mean, there's no way around it. Like he has not looked like what we needed him to be, with where he was drafted in the NFL draft. He was picked 1 pick after Judkins. Judkins looks like an absolute stud. And Henderson looks honestly a little bit lost, like at the NFL level. I have some real fear Henderson maybe was just a really good college football player. He had this elite size and speed and catching ability that it caused him to excel in college. That just isn't going to be the thing that can really separate him at the NFL level. He has made very few guys miss. He did play 50% of the snaps last week. That was a season high. Like, it's hard not to see him playing more now with Gibson out. Gibson was playing like a real role. He was getting some real goal line work too. Antonio Gibson, he's done for the season with an ACL, but Henderson is definitely the preferred guy on this team. Then you have Kamani Vidal, who is going to be behind Haskins. Like, he's also a running back too on his own team behind a bad offensive line, but a good matchup. Both these guys have good matchups though. It's not like the Saints are that scary. I'm going Henderson here, but yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on Henderson just in general, and if there's any hope you have for him. And then this starts it too. I'm curious. Let me actually add Haskins to this one too, and if that is maybe a closer one for you.
I think if we're going off the report that Haskins is the starter, I like his chance to get goal line work and potentially score a touchdown more than I like Travion Henderson's potential to score a touchdown. I think if the Patriots get in the red zone, it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson. I think Travion Henderson maybe deserves a little bit more time to see if he can pan out. I'm not like fully panicking. However, he has not looked nearly as explosive as I thought he was going to look. I don't think they've used him in the pass game as much as I thought they should be. And
I mean,
maybe this week is the week.
The whole reason I was like confidently targeting him, like really aggressively targeting him in fantasy, was looking at the James White numbers from the last time Josh McDaniels was OC and the James White target shares from those seasons, like the last 3 seasons from James White with Josh McDaniels as OC. If you just combine those target shares on average, he'd be top 3 in target share in the NFL this season. Like, those are the types of target shares I thought we might see for Henderson. We haven't seen a single game over a 14% target share. I mean, James White was over a 20% target share in those seasons, like on average. So he's nowhere near that. He's like half of that. So yeah, I mean, the receiving role has been really, really disappointing. I would agree with that. I feel like the explosiveness is there. It's just he's not able to create enough space to really show it. Right? Like, he's created no space to even get going. He just sprints right into defenders. Like, he just doesn't have the ability to really create the holes so far, at least. So I agree, though. It is too early to completely give up hope. But I think I would agree. I would go Haskins over Henderson here in week 6. I would go Henderson though over Vidal. I would go Henderson over Vidal
100%
pretty easily here. Okay, let's get to a few more of the more difficult start sits here before Samps has to jump off. This is an interesting one as well. I've seen all 3 of these guys, I think, in a decent amount of start sits so far. There's a couple start sits in this one comic. But let's get to the first one here between Tetero McMillan. Apparently, he doesn't like being called Tet. I keep calling him
really.
We're going to call him Tetero McMillan here. He's projected as wide receiver 7 still this week, Samps. despite the 30 plus mile an hour wind and the rain, he gets a matchup versus the Cowboys. I mean, like these things cancel out to some extent. I really wish we had a good weather game here though for Tedero McMillan, because it would be so easy to be all in given this matchup. But we do have 30 plus mile an hour winds in this game. And then Brian Thomas Jr. and Pickens in the same game. I think I'm pretty easily going Tedero over Pickens in that
Really?
same game environment. Maybe you don't think that's as easy as I do. Pickens actually projects the worst here. He's obviously been really good over the last 4. No CD Lamb. I mean, the target share should be there. It seemed like the Jets really like locked in on him last week and shut him down a little bit. He still ended up scoring. He's now had 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's 3rd in the NFL in receiver touchdowns per game. But yeah, would you agree this big of a gap here between the receivers, Samps? How would you approach this? You're starting 2 out of these 3 guys.
Yeah, so I'm going to call my shot on this today. I think this is going to be Brian Thomas's best game of the season by a mile. I think he's going to have a really, really good game. Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be without 2 of their top corners in Reek Woolen and Devon Witherspoon. And I think he looked really good towards the end of last week's game. I think the confidence is going to build from that. And I think Brian Thomas, of these 3, is one I'm for sure going to play. Maybe that's crazy. The other 2 guys have been doing really well and he hasn't. But I don't know. For me, Tet versus Pickens is not as easy as you made it sound. One thing I always say on my lives is like, you got to play both. I don't know how you answer this question. I really don't know. For me, Pickens, at least Pickens is scoring touchdowns. That's kind of like the argument there.
Right.
Do I trust Bryce Young, little small Bryce Young in the rain against or the wind or whatever's going to happen? It's tough.
It's going to be
When in
both.
doubt,
It's going to be wind and rain.
so when in doubt, ride with Walter. If it's that big of a discrepancy, I would go with Tet, I suppose. But I don't know. That
Yeah,
doesn't feel that great to me.
you make fair points. It's so frustrating because I agree with you. Trusting Bryce Young with 30 plus mile an hour winds and rain, it's tough to get behind. But you peek at the matchup tab versus the Cowboys, and it's like, oh gosh, this could be the best matchup of the season for the Panthers passing attack. I mean, this defense just in general has been so bad. But I agree. I mean, Dak Prescott versus Bryce Young in the wind and rain, I'm going Dak 100 times out of 100. I'm
Yep.
trusting him 100 times out of 100 there. I do think that the after the catch ability for Tedero McMillan is getting a little underrated, a little slapped down right now. We haven't really seen it yet, but I do think he's going to have some really big after the catch plays this season. I like the shout with Brian Thomas Jr. There's a really good point too with the Seahawks defense that I did not mention and fully realize earlier. So there's a very, very good shout here from Samps. The Seahawks are not just without their 2 starting corners, Reek Woolen and Devon Witherspoon, like Sam's mentioned. They're also without their starting strong safety, Julian Love. So 3
Wow.
starters in the secondary out for the Seahawks, and Brian Thomas Jr. building off his best game of the season here. I mean, could see a 30-plus point game here for sure. It makes this matchup, it's red here. They're 12th best against receivers this season, but they obviously had a bunch of these starters in most of those games. So yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. and Tedero McMillan is how I would go. Samps isn't fully on board as much with definitely starting Tet over Pickens. I do think it's actually pretty close given the weather in the game. But yeah, I think I would go Tet and Brian Thomas Jr. there. All right, we got time for a few more. How much more time you got, Samps, here on this live?
I am world's the oyster right now. I will stay in here as long as you want me to. You can kick me out whenever you want. I will say Garrett Wilson did come back in the game just now.
Oh, nice.
Pastor Tam broke up a pass. I know, shocker. But yeah, I'll be here as long as you want me here. I'm enjoying this whenever.
Hell yeah. All right, so we got some more. We already talked through both these guys. Ridley versus Bourne we talked about Bourne versus Jennings. That was kind of easy. This actually is maybe a tougher one to get a better pulse check for both of us on these guys. It's tough for Kendrick. It's tough to project Kendrick Bourne after that game without Jennings. Now Jennings is back. Jennings is dealing with an ankle and hip. It was like 2 different injuries.
It was just lower half, just random injuries that I'm just like, I don't know how this happens to 49ers only. I've never seen a team with so many players with multiple injuries to different body parts ever.
Yeah, the 49ers have had the worst injury luck for sure over the last 2 years. Not even close, I don't think. Ridley versus Bourne. Bourne projects better. Ridley is the higher ceiling here. I think I lean Ridley a bit over Bourne. This is maybe one of those that is a floor ceiling decision. Bourne slightly safer floor, Ridley slightly better ceiling. But yeah, to me, I lean Ridley just slightly overborn. I'm curious if you disagree with that, Samps, like Walter disagrees with me here.
Yeah, I think I would go with Calvin Ridley. Looking at the spreads, 3.5. That's a competitive game in the Titans Raiders game in a dome, as you mentioned. I think. I think if the game is competitive, it boils down to: are we getting the final 2 minutes of last game, Cam Ward, where he looked like prime Joe Montana? Or are we going to get what we've seen prior to that? If he's confident now and balling out, Calvin Ridley could become locked
Yeah.
in start guy.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the live. Calvin Ridley's been, I mean, not Calvin Ridley, Cam Ward. He's been like really, really bad.
Yes.
There's been moments, there's been flashes, like small stretches or even single plays, flashes of like, okay, this is why this guy was the first overall pick. He's still a rookie, like we said with Trevor and Henderson. We definitely can't write him off. Yet he also had like a really difficult opening schedule, like maybe the most difficult opening schedule for any
Yeah, it's
quarterback
terrible.
was Cam Ward. Like he opens the season against Broncos, Rams, Colts, Texans, Cardinals. 4 of those 5 defenses are top 10. One of those is the Rams at full health too in week 2. Not an easy defense. Your second career game. The schedule gets a little easier from here, but statistically, the only quarterback that's been worse than Cam Ward has been Joe Flacco. That's it. End of list. The only quarterback that's worse. 5.4 yards per attempt, 52% completion percentage. Like this looks like Anthony Richardson type passing numbers. That's not great, but I do think there's still a ceiling with Calvin Ridley. I have some hope to the storyline of the play caller changing. So yeah, I think I agree. I think we're both on Calvin Ridley there. Ridley, Myers, or Shakir. I know you said you're a known Shakir hater. I do kind of think,
Yeah.
I know you're the Falcons creator, so I'm curious what you think on this too. I think AJ Terrell is going to mostly match up with Keon Coleman. The Bills, like, I'm not going to be surprised to see a huge bounce back here from the Bills. Like, they're not going to turn the ball over probably that much as they did last week, the whole rest of the season. I wouldn't be that shocked to see them get Khalil Shakir going here. Play one of your most efficient receivers more in a game, where you're trying to bounce back off a really disappointing loss. Jacoby projects the best. There's been so many of these this season where Jacoby projects the best. Like he keeps projecting really, really well, but he hasn't been producing, near these projections, like kind of all season. He's been steadily declining in the projections and still kind of underperforming them. I think I would probably still go Myers over Ridley. I have some weird optimism about Shakir though in the bounce back spot. How about you? Where would you go in this starts it?
To go back to the AJ Terrell thing, if I'm not mistaken, anyone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Terrell's more of a half the field kind of guy. He's not a shadow guy. So if the Bills want to get Shakir going, I think it's just a matter of scheming him opportunities. Um, if I had to guess, if he was going to shadow, it would be Keon Coleman. Bigger body would make more sense. Shakir's kind of a tougher guy to just shadow an entire game. I think that Falcons Bills game is going to be an exciting competitive game, and if that's the case, Shakir probably has a good game. I think when going through a question like this, one of the first things I think of is like, okay, Geno Smith's throwing to Jacoby Myers, Cam Ward's throwing to Calvin Ridley, Josh Allen's throwing to Khalil Shakir. So that's a tiebreaker in some extent for me. And I do think Jacoby Myers, you can say he's a good matchup or whatever, but if you look at his game logs, he's had 4 in a row, I believe, and he's been stinky in all of them. Yeah, or 3 or 4 in a row. So I don't know. So I think Khalil Shakir, if you're looking for like like the game script and the best quarterback play, makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I would probably rank these guys like Walter has it: Myers, Shakir, Ridley. But I do have some optimism about Shakir. I'd be fine starting him in this spot as well. It's I think it's really tough out there for people to start Jacoby Myers right now, and I totally understand. Jared Goff versus Mac and Cheese, Mac Jones. We haven't had many quarterback start sits, but let me pull up the QB ranks on the live right now on both live streams, both TikTok and YouTube. Shout out to everybody who's tuned into the live right now. We are locked in here for week 6, and there's some pretty tough QB start sits this week. And man, like the gap here is a bit wild. We have Goff in the highest over-under game of the week here versus the Chiefs. And then we have Mac Jones projected with like 2.5 points more than Goff. He does have a lower boom percentage, but a safer bust percentage. Mac Jones has kind of been balling. We had a comment earlier in the TikTok live that this guy knows ball because he's got Mac Jones ranked as QB 12. And I don't think he was kidding. 342 pass yards for Mac Jones last week versus the Rams. Now he gets the Buccaneers, who are really one of the pass funnel defenses in the league right now. The run defense isn't bad, but the pass defense has been pretty rough. 341-4 to Sam Darnold last week, 28.6 points. 3 straight games, they've allowed over 17 points. That was one game was Tyrod Taylor, who was a top 10 quarterback here versus the Bucs. So 3 straight games allowing a top 12 QB performance. Penix had his best game of the season versus the Bucs in week 1 as well. God, I think it's Mac Jones, but yeah, talk me out of this one, Samps. Would you go Goff over Mac Jones?
I would go Goff over Mac Jones, and I think that's because if you believe the Lions beat the Chiefs or at least keep that game really tight, is it going to be through running the ball or is it going to be through passing the ball? I don't think it's necessarily running the ball. And I think in a competitive game, that's kind of when Jared Goff, gets after it. I trust Jared Goff right now in this matchup more than I would trust Mac Jones to keep up his hot streak. Mac Jones will be like having possessions where he's playing on one leg because they refuse to bring in the like XFL backup QB, whoever that is. I think I'd go Jared Goff against the Chiefs on primetime. I feel like the Lions come to play on primetime, and if it was up to me, that's what I would do. I'd have to disagree with Walter on this one.
I don't think I've seen ever in the NFL a guy hurt his knee mid-game and they just toss a brace on it and send him back out there. Like I've never seen that before. Mac Jones is playing through definitely some real limitations. Hasn't slowed him down though, really so far. And yeah, it definitely feels gross. We haven't seen Jared Goff really be pushed pass attempt wise. The only game he threw a lot of passes was that week 1 game versus the Packers. Packers defense was playing lights out in that one. He did complete 31 out of 39 passes, but only 225 and a touchdown. He has 3 games under 14 points and then 2 games over 20 points. But this is a tougher matchup. The Chiefs are favored. And this one, 2.5 point favorites at home, though. So like they had the game really projected to be very close. I think I would agree that Goff's ceiling is higher. I think Mac Jones is safer, though. I really do think he is like his floor. What's Mac Jones' floor today? 15 points, 14 points. I mean, the floor for Goff, I think, is maybe somewhat near there, but the ceiling's maybe higher. So yeah, Samson and I disagree on this one. A tough call. For sure. The fact that he said he's predicted to lose, though, here in the
Yeah, I was to say that context was important. I appreciate that context. And I also want to say that the Broncos just got called for holding in the end zone. So the Jets got a safety and are actually winning with less than 100 total yards of offense through 3 quarters. So just wanted to throw that out there that they're up 11-10.
My gosh, that is just ridiculous. What a ridiculous London time game. And I see Bo Nix is leading the Broncos in rushing, which is disgusting to see here as well. Man, Sutton has 1 catch in this game. Just gross all around for fantasy so far in this game. Really not a single guy you feel good that you started so far in this London time game.
No, I thought this was going to be a Broncos coming out party like they're about to go on a run here. This has not been the case.
Yeah, I mean, man, it doesn't seem like Bo Nix completion percentage has been that bad. But I mean, I had a question earlier on the live. Is Bo Nix good? Like, I'm not. This felt like a game where we maybe could find out, but I mean, he's been pretty bad so far this season. He's at 6.3 yards per attempt. That's 27th in the league. Like his completion percentage is kind of inflated because they do a lot of short stuff to the running backs and tight ends, but 6.3 yards per attempt is not going to get it done to be like a legit team in the NFL. He's at 17 points. He's got a passing touchdown every game. He has a passing touchdown again today too. So not the worst for fantasy, but in real life, I'm not so sold on Bo Nix. It at least feels like at least a sophomore slump going on here for Bo Nix. I don't know if you agree with that, Samps, or if you can answer for us if Bo Nix is good or not.
I don't think he's bad, but I wouldn't go as far as to say he's good. The thing about him is there's certain parts of his game that are really bad, some that are really good. I think on the run he makes a lot of accurate passes where you're like, that was a really nice play. And then he had a deep ball earlier in this game where he was going deep to Marvin Mims and it was about 10 yards to the right. Like no one ever could have caught that. So you're just kind of like, we need more consistency from him. And I do think if he stays with Sean Payton, he gets the opportunity, he will be better. But I think in fantasy he's fine. I mean, he's had a decent game today so far, only averaging 6 yards of completion, but he hasn't turned the ball over yet, and he's running the ball. I'm just really shocked that J.K. Dobbins hasn't done more in this game. I was so certain that he was going to have a good game in this one, and there's still time, but
yeah,
now they're losing. So who knows what's going to happen now? The Broncos are losing.
Yeah, the rushing props looking bleak right now for J.K. Dobbins for sure. He's going to need to rip off one long run to have any hope at this one. Aaron in the chat. Hey, Sam, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well, Aaron. It's the best day of the week, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Got to pick one here for a flex. There have been a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. questions today, Sam. So we haven't talked about him yet. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on his situation. And then Matthew Golden, we both said we did kind of like here in week 6. So I'm curious on this one. Then Juwan Jennings, he's going to project the best in the Walter Picks app on this one. But I don't think this is like the easiest start sit. God, Jennings projects like way better than the other two here. Marvin Harrison Jr. does project better than Golden. He's got Jacoby Brissett tossing the ball here in this game. Matchup wise, on paper, this is the best matchup, but I think this is the one I was saying. You look at the actual matchup tab, you got to look at the context on all the data at this point in the NFL season. You look at the context here, they shut down the Dolphins receivers, the Colts. Troy Franklin had 24 points, but the rest of the Broncos receivers did nothing against the Colts. And then we had the Rams, who combined for like over 60 points. They had almost 70 wide receiver points, the Rams, against the Colts. And that's obviously not the Cardinals. And then they shut down the Raiders receiver. Like they shut down basically everyone except for the Rams and Troy Franklin. So the numbers here is a little misleading. Like if you took out the matchup versus the Rams, like they're actually like one of the better pass defenses in the league so far this season. So yeah, that part has me a little skittish. Then we have Matthew Golden, a really good matchup, and Jennings has at least a ceiling and the best projection. Man, I don't know what to do here, Samps. Which of these three guys would you start?
If I be maybe permitted a third must bench, that's Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he cannot be started. I said it on my live stream last night. I also said Garrett Wilson was a must start, by the way. Not going to toot my own horn on that one just yet, but Marvin Harrison would.
Garrett Wilson must bench.
Yes, and it's like you said, the context is important. Giving up 60 points in 1 week doesn't make the matchup good for everyone else. Like Marvin Harrison with Jacoby Brissett, no run game that'll be able to be established. I'm not playing Marvin Harrison. I'm going to go with Juwan Jennings in this one. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards the projection here with Jennings too. And yeah, I said earlier, I'm not convinced Jacoby Brissett's going to be better for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think there is probably a more likely chance it's worse than better for Marv. Yeah.
Where is this Jacoby Brissett love coming from? Did I miss something? Was there like a TikTok he posted highlights? Am I missing something?
I don't think it's Jacoby Brissett love. I think it's Kyler Murray hate. I think it's just Jacoby Brissett love showing at like it's that's what's showing, but it's really underneath. It's just Kyler Murray hate. People just frustrated with Kyler Murray Marv connection. But you put a worse quarterback into the same offense. Like I'm not convinced the output's going to be better here for Marv. This is an interesting one. He says he needs to swing for the fences. So if you have JMO, I mean that's the way to do it. I think that answers the question, honestly. But without the swing for the fences part of this, Samps, would you go Haskins or Jameson Williams, or would you really just view this as like a floor ceiling decision here? You need the floor, you go Haskins. You need the ceiling, you go JMO.
I think I would go with Hassan Haskins in any circumstance that isn't you need the ceiling. And I think there's a role where Haskins does have a ceiling if the Chargers can move the ball and they're on the goal line a few times. I think that could be 20 plus, like a Michael Carter from last week sort of thing. He's not going to catch passes like Michael Carter did, I don't think. But yeah, I think if you're swinging for the fences, it's Jameson Williams, and it's more fun Sunday night. You got to swing for the fences on Sunday night against the Chiefs. Imagine how good that'll feel if you swung for the fences, you hit a home run against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. That'd feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think I would go Haskins over JMO in a vacuum. But yeah, if you need to swing for the fences, there's just very few guys at the ceiling that Jameson Williams will have in tonight's game. So I want to get to the tight end part of this. Start sit. Since you said Marv was a bench, I assume that means you'd go Judy over Marv. I think I'd probably go Judy amongst these four, but I want to talk to you specifically about Darren Waller here because there is a lot of Darren Waller questions. We are still pretty low in the Darren Waller projection. I mean, he's rising from where we had him, but he projects his tight end 15 right now. So like, there's very few cases right now where we have Darren Waller as a start. We have Cade Otton, Hunter Henry, Michael Mayer, Kyle Pitts, Harold Fannin, Jake Tungus ahead of him. He scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games. His role obviously grew a lot last week. He was almost all in the first half, though. Like he did nothing in the second half. Very strange way that it sort of shook out. Kyle Pitts without Darnell Mooney, but the Bills have been the second best defense versus tight ends. They also haven't played good tight ends for the context, but no tight end, I think, has more than 3 catches. Yeah, no tight end has more than 3 catches versus the Bills. They're all like, this is, I could easily see after this week, we see Pitts in this long line of tight ends with 3 or fewer catches. Would not be surprising at all, even though he's been pretty good this season. So yeah, this is not an easy one for me. I do think I would lean Pitts also, but to me, Waller, like he has the higher ceiling, I think, with the touchdowns that he's had. How would you go Pitts versus Waller here?
I'm gonna go with Kyle Pitts. I think of those four in that question, I would go with Kyle Pitts.
Oh, wow. Let me talk Judy in
I
here.
think I'm looking, and I'm not like. Here's the thing: I might be Falcons, Walter picks, whatever. I would never ever let bias get in the way of like my takes in fantasy football. And I'm going to say there's a big deal for the Bills is that Matt Milano's not playing. He's their best linebacker. He's not playing in this game, and I think that will open up a lot for Kyle Pitts, especially if it's competitive. That's good. If they're playing from behind, that's good.
Yep.
So I like Kyle Pitts a lot this week. I told a lot of people to play Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller on my lives. So. I'm in on Kyle Pitts this week. Could come back to bite me, but I like it.
Yeah, so I think we're in agreement. Kyle Pitts over Darren Waller. I don't know if I can get with you on Kyle Pitts over Jerry Jeudy. Man, he only had 3.5 points last week. He's got under 10 points every game since week one. I honestly didn't realize it's been just this bad for Jeudy, but it's not a bad matchup for Jeudy here versus the Steelers. I still think he's the wide receiver one in this team. Cedric Tillman is still out, I believe, on this team as well. So like it's him and Isaiah Bond. Like these are the top receivers after the tight ends who are going to get a huge target share. And the Browns will be run heavy, I'm sure, again too. But God, I hate starting two tight ends. I just don't. I do not want two tight ends in my lineup if I can avoid it. So I probably would go Jeudy over Pitts, but I'm with you with Pitts over Darren Waller. All right, let's get to a few more here. Let's see if I can find a good one. Oh gosh, yeah, this one's just disgusting. Let's get to this one. We got Chase Brown, Henderson, Carter, Haskins, Jacoby Higgins. All right, we're gonna remove Michael Carter from this. Michael Carter is a must bench. He's literally not even starting over Bam Knight. So get Carter as far away from your starting lineup as possible. He's probably droppable right now. So this is we need two running backs. So let's start with the running backs. Chase Brown, Henderson, Haskins. Out of those three, I mean, Henderson versus Brown is a gross one. I think I would probably honestly start Haskins over Henderson. We have Henderson just ahead of him. I don't want to start Chase Brown. I really don't want to start Chase Brown. I mean, I was telling people last week to bench Chase Brown for Kendre Miller. That was a bad call because he had ended up getting 7 catches. He had 27 rushing yards, though. Did Chase Brown. This is one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You look at the yards, the contact before the line of scrimmage across the league, I believe the Bengals are dead last. Like every single attempt, they're getting contacted for the line of scrimmage. They get a Packers defensive line on top of that, who they're coming off a bye and like an embarrassing game against the Cowboys. Like, is the Packers defense good? Like, I really was very confused by that Cowboys game. Like, the Packers were completely unable to stop the Cowboys offense in that game after looking like a generational defense really in the first month of the season. But against this Bengals defensive line, I think they will kind of whip back into looking like a really good defense again. Brown projects the best, though, at the same time. Yeah, how would you approach this one, Samps?
I'm gonna operate based off this being PPR, and
Yep.
I'm gonna say Chase Brown is definitely someone I would start. Historically, Joe Flacco loves throwing to running backs. I think if it's his first week in the offense, obviously he can learn an offense quick. He's been in the league for like 30 years, but if he needs to dump the ball off quick, he's going to be able to do that to Chase Brown. So I think in the PPR, I like that. They'll be playing from behind most likely. Um, so I think I go with Chase Brown. If it's not PPR, I think I'd go Hassan Haskins. It seems to make the most sense. That's where I would lean on this one.
Yeah, I definitely Chase Brown will get more work in the pass game than Haskins. I think Haskins got a way better chance at a touchdown though, and some
He
like actual
does, for
rushing
sure.
production. So it's close. I think I would probably bench Brown, but I agree in PPR it's definitely a tough call, and that's why Chase Brown projects the best. I mean, he had 7 catches last week. There's only one guy amongst these three that can get 7 catches this week, and is Chase Brown. So that it is reasonable for that reason. We haven't gotten to any Flournoy questions. I'm seeing a lot of Flournoy questions. Am I saying this name right? Flournoy? Is that how
Yes,
it's
I
spelled?
mean I don't think I've ever heard it said, but I like to pronounce it the way it's spelled. So we're gonna go with Flournoy or
The
Flournoy maybe because it's spelled like flour you bake things with.
all right, so we got two receivers and a tight end here. And Joku
It's
does
the
project
weirdest
really, really
question.
well. And Joku does project really, really well this week. I mentioned it at the beginning of the live or when I talked about this Browns Steelers game. Again, I'm before we jump into this, like, do you agree that this spread just doesn't really make sense? The Steelers are 6.5-point favorites. Are they really should be projected that much better than the Browns here?
I don't think it should be that high. I will say that their defense has improved a ton over the last couple of weeks. They're forcing turnovers, getting pressure. Like TJ Watt's definitely looking better. The secondary is looking good. Jalen Ramsey's going to play in this one. He's not out from what I saw. And it's against a rookie quarterback. I kind of think Mike Tomlin's kind of foaming at the mouth to go against a rookie quarterback,
Yeah,
especially one that isn't that good. I don't think the line should be that big. I think the Browns deserve more respect than that because of their defense going against a 900-year-old
right,
quarterback.
right.
So I don't think it should be 6.5 by any
Yeah.
stretch. But this question is truly bonkers. This is a combination of names I don't know I'd ever see together.
Yeah, I
Like,
think I think I would go Njoku, honestly. But there's been a lot of. Are you in on Flournoy, like as the guy you want to start? I mean, he had 20 points, so 18 and a half points last week, 6 for 114. He was kind of featured by the Cowboys last week. Pickens, he had more targets than Pickens. He had 9 targets, 32% target share. This game has 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts. If any receiver is going to be insulated from that, it's probably the slot receiver, which is the role that he's playing. But God, I mean, he could easily go for under 5 points. It would not be surprising at all
yeah,
if he goes under 5. I think his floor is the lowest, maybe of all three. Coleman's floor is pretty low too. I honestly think it is Njoku here over these
I
receivers.
think I think if the context projected to lose by 30 is funny, by the way. It's just kind of funny to add at the end. But I think if I'm projected to lose by 30, I'm going with Keon Coleman and hoping the Bills and Falcons is a competitive game where he sees a few deep bombs, like Gabe Davis-esque from back in the day. That's how I would operate this one. I don't think there's a world where Njoku gets you enough points to help you get back from a 30-point deficit. Um, that's my thought process with that context.
The other game I want your thoughts on is this Patriots one. This is the other spread to me that the only there's two other spreads that I just wanted your quick thoughts on because that I just last week there was a few that surprised me a decent amount. The Ravens game was one of them. I think there was 4 games that I said like really this is the spread, and 3 of those end up coming very true. There's 3 again this week. We just talked about one of them with the Browns. Steelers seems like you think it makes a little more sense than I do. The Patriots, they're only 3.5 point favorites here versus the Saints. This game's in New Orleans. I think the Patriots have one of the better defenses in the league all of a sudden. They've been one of the best run defenses in the NFL. Like, I do not want to start the Saints running backs. I think Kamara definitely over Kendre, which I think was like kind of an open question and still is maybe a little bit of an open question just because the receiving work. But you look at like the Patriots, they've been like near the Browns in terms of stopping running backs this season. They're allowing the 5th fewest running back fantasy points per game. They're at 3.2 yards per carry allowed to running backs this season. And now they get their top cornerback. They just, turned the Bills over multiple times. I don't know. It's a little surprising. They're only 3.5 point favorites for the 1-win Saints. Is this as surprising to you, or do you think this spread makes sense?
I think the spread makes sense. New Orleans is one of the most difficult places to play in the NFL, regardless of how good or bad they are. They have one of the best home field advantages. They play everyone tight except for Seattle, and that game was over in the first 2 minutes of the game because of a punt return and a fumble or whatever happened. Um, I think the Patriots win, of course. That's what Vegas expects too. But I think I wouldn't want to touch that spread. I think that Vegas knows what they're doing on that one. And I also will say this: I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. So there's rumors, obviously, the Saints want to trade their players, some of their players, and
Yep.
I don't think Alvin Kamara wants to be traded. I think that the Saints have been showcasing Kendre Miller because they want to trade him. That's
Mhm.
going to be a take. So I can see Kendre 2, 3 weeks from now being the top. Like, he's already been a waiver recommendation in the Walter Picks app so far, but it's the Chargers trade for him. Someone like what I mean. Then we're like, oh, this is interesting. So I think Kendre belongs on everyone's rosters. By the way,
Yeah,
um,
that's a very interesting call. And yeah, there has been reports Kamara doesn't want he wants to end his career on the Saints, and they're going to respect that seemingly. So Kamara's not going anywhere. He's still going to have a huge receiving role for as long as he's on this team. That is an interesting take, though, that they're showcasing Kendre for that reason. And if you're the Saints, why not sell basically anyone
exactly.
that you can get? I mean, it's very, very nice of them to respect Kamara's wishes. It sounds like, though, Kamara, like, he does have some leverage. He could just retire. You trade me away. Okay, I'm retiring. I wanted to retire a Saint, so I'm just going to retire, and then kills any trade, obviously. So that is an interesting one. The other note here, though, that Samps disagrees that this spread makes sense. So we've seen the Saints. We've seen them get crushed in a few games. The games were a little closer, I think, than the final scores suggest. But the Saints, they lost to the Cardinals week 1, 20-13. 7-point loss. They lost the 49ers by 5, 26-21. They lost the Seahawks 44-13. That was the game that was over early that Samps was talking about. They lost to the Bills 31-19. That game was actually kind of close. Definitely a lot
It was
closer.
closer than that for sure.
Yeah, definitely closer than that. A lot of people in the survivor pools were scared during that one. They beat the Giants 26-14, which is an impressive win, especially after Thursday night. That's their
The
game.
Giants did turn the ball over 5 consecutive possessions in that game, so I
Yeah,
do want to call that out. That's not been done since like someone you've never heard of in like 1945.
yeah, the
So
Giants definitely should have. They should have won that game. And the other just
yeah,
note here, like I think, like Drake May is like sneakily like a very legit MVP candidate right
yeah,
now. If the Patriots win the AFC East, which is obviously a big if, and they're underdogs to do so, like I think May is the MVP. Like Allen is the leader in MVP odds right now. If the Patriots somehow beat them in the AFC East, like beat them one more time basically this season, finish the season strong, they have one of the easiest schedules in the league. Like May is a legit MVP candidate. I got this stat from the NFL Pro Insights this morning. Drake May's on pace to be the third quarterback right now in NFL history to average more than 250 passing yards and a better than 105 passer rating. The only other two guys to do that both won the MVP. It was Mahomes in 2018 and Dan Marino. Like, that's the other piece here that the Saints are not stopping Drake May in this game. So yeah, I do have a lot of confidence in the Pats in this one, but Samps is cooling those expectations a little bit, which is notable since I am a Pats fan. The only other one that I was surprised about was this Rams one. Rams only favored by 6.5. I mean, this feels like it should be like a 13.5 point spread here for the Rams. There's 30 plus mile an hour wins. The Ravens looked like a practice squad last week. They still are missing 4 of their key starting defense players on defense. 3 of those are all pro defenders. And then they're missing their starting left tackle in Ronnie Stanley, I think. Stanley. And then Stanley. And then Lamar Jackson's obviously out as well. I mean, there's just like, what is the hope for this game to be close here for the Ravens? I don't see it. It's Derrick Henry, he's been under 50 rushing yards in 4 straight games, longest stretch of his career. I mean, he's had more stretches over 100 yards than under 50 yards in his career, which is really crazy. But yeah, I mean, is this? How about this spread, Sam's? Is this one of those surprising to you?
yeah. This one's a little surprising. I will say that the Ravens will be getting back Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey for this game, which is important. I still don't really see it offensively.
Right.
If it's a slip and slide, I don't think Cooper Rush is the guy you want out there. So yeah, that's where I would agree that this spread's kind of strange on this one. It should be a little higher. I mean, it is in Baltimore.
Yep.
That I guess counts for something, but it's not going to be a capacity crowd. They stink. Lamar's not playing. I know someone who had tickets to the game and is mad they can't sell their tickets because no one wants to go. So
Yeah.
he's begrudgingly heading to this game to watch Cooper Rush in the sloshing grass. It's not going to be fun.
Crazy stuff. Yeah. We can get back to some of the starts this now. Sam's agreed with one of my 3 spread takes. We'll see how those age. I think speaking of Drake May, we were just talking about him being kind of a sneaky MVP candidate. Caleb Williams projects a little bit better than him, but this is sort of that big tier of quarterbacks I was talking about before. These guys project really close together, half a point apart in projection. Caleb Williams has been balling, though. He gets a matchup versus the Commanders today. Drake May against the Saints. I think I would go Caleb here. Coming off the bye, too, like I have some optimism for Ben Johnson to be what we wanted him to be for fantasy, which at times they've looked like we wanted them to be, and at times it definitely is not. But he is 6th right now, Caleb Williams, in points per game among quarterbacks. Not a bad matchup here versus the Commanders. They did get a lot of pressure last week, but yeah, I'm in on Caleb Williams, I think, over Drake May. How would you feel about this one?
I agree. I think that the Bears-Commanders game is going to be an exciting one. I think there's much more of a ceiling in that game than Patriots-Saints. Feels like that game kind of has a capped ceiling in terms of like just production in general. It could be kind of that's why I don't hate the spread in that one. It could be kind of gross in a way. So I like Caleb Williams more than Drake May for fantasy purposes.
We got a question here from Zach in the YouTube live. Shout out to you, Zach. Jennings or Diggs, Knight or Haskins full PPR? So we're benching the Cardinals running backs. We're playing Haskins over Bam Knight. Better matchup for Haskins by like a mile. You want to start the running backs versus the Dolphins. Jennings versus Diggs is a really interesting one. Samps, I don't think I was on the projections call to mention this week, but Steph Diggs, he's the 3rd most efficient receiver in the NFL right now on a per route basis. There's only 2 guys ahead of him. It's Puka and JSN. End of list.
Wow.
Those are the only guys over 3 yards per run right now this season. And part of it is Diggs is not playing that as many snaps as most of the other receivers at his level in the NFL. It seemed like it's really working for the Pats, though. Like they're getting such efficiency out of him when he is out there. and they're sort of keeping him fresh very successfully. Coming off a huge game, obviously, versus the Bills. He only played like 50% of snaps in that game, which is a little scary for fantasy. Yeah, Diggs versus Jennings here. We have them projected a little bit apart, but pretty close. I mean, I could see an argument definitely either way. Yeah, I'll let you go first on this one, Samps. Would you go Diggs or Juwan Jennings?
I think it is worth noting. I don't know the exact statistics behind it, but I believe the Saints have been good against outs or the slot receiver that Diggs has been kind of playing. So I have seen some people saying maybe this is a booty game, outside receiver, sort of against the better matchup. But I just kind of think based on how he's been playing, I don't know how you bench Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Um, I think I just don't see it. I think Juwan Jennings could have a good game, but I don't see the rationale for. I mean, 100 yards 2 weeks in a row. Like I don't know. You can't really talk me out of playing Stephon Diggs right now.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Diggs is safer. I think the ceilings are not that different. And I still like I'm waiting for it. And I don't think this is probably going to be the game, but like what does happen when Diggs plays 80 or 90% of the snaps? Like maybe we're honestly not going to see that till like the real NFL playoff push or the NFL playoffs if the Pats make it there because it's kind of working right now. But yeah, he has played like about half of his routes from the slot, which is definitely near the top of the league. He has been playing a real slot role. Yeah, I think it is Diggs though over Jennings. I think we both disagree with the rankings on that one. All right, here's a tough one, Sam. So we've been saying bench the Cardinals running backs. I don't think we've talked about one this gross here though. This question here from the YouTube live, and we're going to get to some comments here on the 6 o'clock live in a second as well. Bam Knight, Michael Carter, or Hunt. So I think we're both on Bam Knight over Carter. So would we play Bam Knight over Kareem Hunt? Gosh.
Ironically, the username of this person is Mac Jones makes me cry. This question might make me cry. I think I would go with Kareem Hunt, and I think that's because I think the Chiefs have a better chance of being on the goal line multiple times than the Cardinals do. We already said we're benching the Cardinals running backs, and
Yeah.
I think Kareem Hunt has a better chance of getting in the end zone, and then that's what my rationale would be.
Yeah, we're going Kareem Hunt there. Chirag, how's it going, my guy? Metcalf or Myers in a PPR league? Yeah, so I accidentally left DK Metcalf and Marvin Harrison Jr. off of my start sit screenshot on the TikTok live. So I've been getting tons and tons and tons of comments saying, what am I supposed to do with Metcalf and Marv? Two of the tougher start sits of the week. So good guy to talk about here. We have Metcalf and Marv right after Jacoby Myers in the ranks. So they're like wide receiver 25 and 26 of the guys left. So Myers extremely close here. When I talk about the Steelers offense, I think Metcalf is the only Steeler I feel like decent starting today. I really don't want to start the running backs. You mentioned they could get a lot of catches. I agree with that. But the Browns run defense has been so good. I mean, the ceiling I don't think is really there for the running backs for the Steelers. Then it's really just DK Metcalf left, who has had one big play basically this season, like a couple big plays, which he's very capable of doing. We can't take those away from him. He has been over 10 points in every game, a better floor than I think I would have expected. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight games as well. I mean, they're scheming him quick release catches, which we haven't really seen from Metcalf like in his career, which is definitely working well. I think he leads the NFL right now in yards after the catch. Like if you were to debate who's going to lead receivers in yards after the catch, I don't think Metcalf would have been in that debate at the start of the season. Yeah, he is number 1 in Yak this season, ahead of Puka Nacua, in Shakir, and Jamar Chase, and Zay Flowers. I mean, pretty crazy stuff here. It makes him a little insulated, like from matchups, if this is the type of role he's going to be in. But yeah, would you go Metcalf or Myers, Samps?
I will say that stat might be skewed. He had like 80 yards on one catch last week that was caught like 1 yard off the line of scrimmage. But I would go DK in this one. I don't really know what the rationale would be to go with Myers over DK personally. I think DK is, if they use him like they did last week, more versatile route tree, like they're coming off the bye. I like DK over Jacoby. Jacoby's losing my trust. He needs to earn it back before I can start him over someone who has been producing. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's totally reasonable. I think that the argument for Myers is the role volume wise has been better. Better target share, like almost 2 targets more per game, more than 2 targets more per game, about a catch and a half more per game. But efficiency wise and production wise, it hasn't been close. I mean, 15 points per game for DK, 10.8 for Myers. yards is in DK's favor as well. Touchdowns. Myers doesn't have a single one. DK has 3 straight games with a touchdown. I think I'm with you, Sam. So I think I'm fine going DK Metcalf here over Jacoby Myers. All right, we got a lot of Bill questions in the chat too.
Oh, let's do it.
This is an interesting one. I think this one was Debo versus Bill. Are you with me? Like pretty confident Debo's playing this week? He is technically questionable in the game. That game is tomorrow night versus the Bears. Good matchup here for Debo. Debo, like kind of quietly, I feel like in my opinion, he's in the biggest role of his career. Like literally the biggest role of his career. His target per route run rate is over 30%. Over 30% of his routes, he's getting a target. That's the highest of his career. He's at a 28.4% target share. Last week, he had a 48% target share, Samps. Like a ridiculous role here.
That is very high.
For Debo. Yeah, I mean, like, and this is the type of guy, like if he's in a big role, I mean, the ceiling is just astronomical. He's getting carries and stuff too. He's been over 17 points now in 4 of his 5 games. And he's just a really tough guy to bench. But Bill is also like a pretty exciting guy to start here versus the Bears. A really good matchup. He's been the most exciting running back. He had 14 carries last week, produced last week. And I mean, it's a good situation here where you have both guys. So you don't need to guess if Debo's going to play. I'm pretty confident Debo's playing, but yeah, how would you go in this start sit?
Assuming Debo plays, this is one where I don't even know how you make the choice. I really don't. It's one of those where I'm like, if I was on one of my live streams, I'd say you need to tell me who else is on your team because I'm trying to start both these guys. I don't know. I don't love saying I don't know, but I think maybe Debo would get the tiebreaker because we're more certain of his role than Bills so far. You can go off the basis that Bills looked better and he's been, doing well, but I mean, he's coming off a 27-pointer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how do you bench him? I don't know how you do it.
It's also such a good matchup here versus the Bears, and this defense has been really bad. It's been, I think, tough for Bears fans. They're so used to having a good defense in Chicago, and it's like completely flipped. It feels like this season, but yeah, they've allowed the 3rd most points per game to running backs this season, the most rushing yards per game to running backs this season. We haven't seen a game where the running back's not going for at least like 70 yards, basically. Gibbs and Montgomery went for over 130. The Vikings running backs, they combined for almost 100 yards. Genty had his like career best day against them in week 4, 138 rushing yards in that one. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good matchup for Jacory Kwaskamara, but if Debo's playing and he's capable of getting a 40% target share, and there's no Terry McLaurin again, there's no Noah Brown, like I'm not benching that ceiling personally, but I do think it is a bit of a floor ceiling decision. I do think Jacory Kwaskamara's floor is actually higher than Debo in this game. So you got some time to wait till Monday night and see what you need, the floor or the ceiling. But there's not many guys with the ceiling comparable to Debo if he's going to have a potential to get 40% target shares. Good morning, Sam, Daniel. Good afternoon to you. It is no longer morning. We were on London time this morning too. Definitely not morning anymore in London. But Darren Waller, Jacoby, or Chase Brown at flex projected to win. We've talked about all 3 of these guys now on the live, Sam. It's definitely 3 very common guys. This is a pretty gross one. I think in this one, it is Jacoby because of the projectable volume here. I feel like you're higher on Chase Brown than I am, though, because the potential targets there. So would you go Chase Brown over Jacoby Myers? And I mean, I don't think either of us would go Waller, but
no, definitely not Waller.
I get why Waller's in these questions. I think a lot of people honestly will start Waller this week. He's been over 17 points in back-to-back games. Just I don't think either of us are relying on the touchdown rate. He's at a 38% touchdown rate, Sam. So it's almost half of his catches have been touchdowns. I mean, just obviously not sustainable.
Certainly sustainable. I was just saying certainly sustainable, right?
But yeah, I think I would go Myers. I'm curious if you'd go Chase Brown here.
I think if I was projected to win and you're in a PPR league as he's put here, I would go with Chase Brown. I just really believe that with Joe Flacco coming in and having 1 week to learn the offense, getting short screen game, quick outs to Chase Brown is going to be a heavy part of the game script and the game plan. So they're very similar, him and Myers, but I think Chase Brown might see more more opportunities to break one loose out of the backfield than Jacoby might see accurate passes downfield from Geno Smith, who has looked like the Geno Smith of years previous. Not recent years previous, Jets years previous.
Yeah, that's not what we want to see. The type of Geno we're looking to see. Yeah, I think I would go Jacoby here. Personally, I'm definitely very low on Chase Brown. Like he's in a running back situation where he's just going to be completely incapable of running. We've seen it now for 5 straight weeks. It's the worst offensive line, one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You're just fully banking on like just a PPR scam. 7 catches, 21 yards. The touchdown potential is so low though that like it's more of like you're praying for 12 points. Like last week he had 7 catches, he had 12, not even 12 points. Like this is not the type of guy I want to start. I think Jacoby, like he's capable of a 30-point game. Chase Brown, I do not think is capable of that. So I think I would go Jacoby personally, but I definitely get like I won't be shocked at all if he has another 7 catches, Chase Brown, like because of everything you're saying. So it's definitely reasonable. This is an interesting one here. We haven't talked about Travis Hunter yet, but I do think Hunter has a somewhat
I love this
exciting
question.
ceiling. Like we did see some deeper routes for him last week on Monday Night Football. He had that one big catch. Also, like I love watching Travis Hunter, man. We were watching him guard Travis Kelce on one side of the ball.
Yeah,
And then
he broke up
literally
a
out
pass
there
on him.
running deep routes on the other side of the ball. I mean, truly, like it's just insane athlete to watch. But this is definitely a close one across the board. I think you might have been advocating for Sterling Shepard over Marv much earlier in the live in a different start sit, which I think is reasonable with Jacoby Brissett starting. I kind of want to start Travis Hunter this week, though. I feel like the arrow is pointing up, like the route tree is expanding. You mentioned being somewhat excited about this game. You said you were in on Brian Thomas Jr. There's 3 starters in the secondary for the Seahawks out, but we really haven't seen like he's not a safe play. I mean, we haven't seen a single game over 10 points yet for Travis Hunter at the same time. So I think I would go Travis Hunter in this one, but I'm curious, Samps, what you think.
I'm with you. We're gonna go with Travis Hunter here. If he scores a touchdown either one of those last 2 games, his outlook is completely different in fantasy. I think like everyone's, he's scored like 15 2 weeks ago. I think he's got a good chance to do that in a game that. If this game's not competitive, I think it might be in favor of the Jaguars. Like if it's not competitive, so I think they want to get Travis Hunter going. And they mentioned it last week. They have more looks coming out for him. Didn't really see a ton of that against the
Yeah.
Chiefs, but the deep ball was different. Didn't really do that previously. I'm gonna go with Travis Hunter here. Sterling Shepard showing up so much is really shocking to me.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Really crazy to see. We got time for a few more before we wrap up here, Samps. Haskins, Derrick Henry, Dobbs, Marv, half PPR. This is how tough it is right now for the Derrick Henry people.
Look at where we're at, man.
Yeah, it's only week 6, and I mentioned it earlier. I think when you were on the live, Derrick Henry's 4 straight games under 50 rushing yards. Last week he scored. He still went under 10 points. Like the exact opposite of what we want in fantasy, right? In fantasy, we want the guys that can go for 15 plus points without a touchdown, right? And then the touchdown gives them a real ceiling. Derrick Henry right now is kind of the opposite. He is scoring a touchdown. He's still going under 10 points. Like he's not catching passes. The offense is really struggling. There's going to be 30 plus mile an hour wind gusts and rain in this game. It's hard to picture them not needing to continue to lean on Derrick Henry, who actually had his largest, I think, snap and rush share of the season last week. I'm going to leave Marv out of this one since we said to bench Marv earlier, but Henry projects the best. Would you get yourself to start Haskins or Dobbs over Derrick Henry?
I think I could be fooled by the Haskins report. Like I could be like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's Derrick Henry, I think, is the answer. But it is a concern if he's fumbling when it's not windy and rainy. Is he going to fumble when it's rainy and windy? I don't know, but I think it's Derrick Henry. You got to just hope the Ravens understand. Like, give him the ball. You know what I mean? Like,
there's some of these for me, Samps, that I'm wearing the math hat, and still, in my soul, I can't bench Derrick Henry in a spot like this. Like in my deep in my body, I cannot physically get myself to be benching Derrick Henry for Hassan Haskins and Romeo Dobbs. Like I won't do it. I can't do it. And he projects the best math wise too here. Like, God, I'm not able to do it. I get it. I do get it. I think it's like somewhat reasonable, but yeah, I'm not benching Derrick Henry in a spot like this. There was a question like this earlier too. I think something along those lines as well. This is a good Sterling Shepard question here, Samps, between Sterling and AJ Barner. I think you got to go. I'm not starting.
Sterling Shepard.
I mentioned earlier too. Like I don't want to start 2 tight ends. I'm not starting AJ Barner as a second tight end in my lineup. Absolutely
this is
not.
a tough one. right
Derrick Henry,
here.
Bourne, Shakir, DJ Moore, Travis Hunter start 2. So again, I think you got to start Derrick Henry, right? And I mean, I think if you want to maximize ceiling, like maybe you can talk yourselves into 2 of these receivers. These receivers are pretty close, man, too. I mean, this is a tough one. I think I would start Derrick Henry here. It's PPR too, though, man. It's not great for Derrick Henry. Who stands out to you out of these 4 Samps?
This is not what Matt's going to be looking for me to say, but literally none of these players stand out to me in this group. It's really, this is to me the definition of a go with your gut scenario. I think I would talk myself into Travis Hunter with all the injuries to Seattle's secondary and the competitive game script. And I think I would end up going with him and Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably what I would do. I do one of these weeks, DJ Moore is going to have a good game. I don't know when it is. I just have a feeling it's going
Yeah,
to happen.
there's some people in the TikTok chat saying this is the week DJ Moore gets unlocked. I mean, it's certainly possible off the bye. I see some people in the TikTok live asking where Marvin Harrison, DK Metcalf are in the ranks. We have them right behind Jacoby Myers. Samps has talked me at least into benching Marvin Harrison Jr. this week since he joined the live. Definitely think there's some real merit there. Yeah, I think I would probably go Derrick Henry and Hunter. I mentioned I do kind of like Shakir this week too. I think I would play Bourne dead last, honestly, on this list though. Like the legacy Bourne game last week came without Juwan Jennings in the lineup. I think the floor and ceiling are just a lot lower with
There
Jennings.
was no Jennings, Pearsall. It was a short week Thursday night. I'm not convinced Bourne does that again. I'm really not.
Someone's asking Tet with the wind or Waddle. So yeah, if you guys are just tuning in, we are almost at the end of the live stream here. We're trying to get to as many start hits as we can. As always, go to the Walter Picks app. If we don't get to your start hit, go to the Walter Picks app. Samps and I both, we spent the last 5 years or so helping build this app. It is the best app you could possibly use for every fantasy decision and player props as well. It's a free app. Link is in the YouTube description, in the TikTok bio. You can get a free 7-day trial to all the premium features in the app too. There's tons of free features. Premium features also come with a 7-day free trial. Use code SAM to get access to that. But an interesting question about Waddle versus Tet. So we got Tedero McMillan in the wind and the rain. And then we got Jalen Waddle without Tyreek coming off his best game of the season. He had 6 for 110 and a touchdown, had his highest target share, 27%. I mean, if we're getting 25+% target shares for Waddle moving forward, he's definitely going to be a guy you want to start in fantasy. Projects really, really well, but not as well still as Tedero McMillan, at least in the Walter Picks app. Which side would you go with here, Sam's, Waddle versus Tet?
I really like Waddle this week. I think it's a narrative not many people are talking about, but when you bring up Tua Tagovailoa these days, it's the Justin Herbert versus Tua discussion because he went ahead of Herbert in the draft, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it played out. So it's always like those two going at it. I think Tua's gonna have a chip on his shoulder in this one. And the rain and the wind is a concern. In any other circumstance, I'm playing Tet. But the rain and the wind, Bryce Young, and those elements makes me incredibly anxious to go and play Tet. Sorry, Tetaroa. Don't want to. I won't stop calling him Tet. I've called him Tet for months. I can't stop now.
Yeah, it's tough for me too. I've done both here on this live stream today. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Waddle's the play given the weather. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, there's significant weather reports in 2 games today. The first one is this Panthers Cowboys game. This game's in Carolina. There's going to be wind gusts over 30 miles an hour and rain in this game. And then there's a similar report in the Rams at Ravens game, 30+ mile an hour wind gusts in that game and rain as well. Both passing games should be docked in this game because of the wind projection. And I think, yeah, it's enough. It's enough in these close calls. Just go with guy not playing in the wind, in the rain, like Jalen Waddle in this case. So yeah, I'm fine going Waddle over Tedero. McMillan, this is honestly the scoring sentence. This one, I think, make this pretty tough. Michael Carter in non-PPR or Jacoby Myers in a non-PPR league. I think with everything we said, it still has to probably be Jacoby, but in a non-PPR league, you almost always do want to go with the running backs. This is gross.
Oh, that's despicable. I hate that one a lot.
This is part of the reason too that the app, I think, like one of the most powerful parts of the app is adjusting for all the scoring settings, especially when you jump to non-PPR. Like the difference in ranking in non-PPR is so drastic sometimes. Well, a guy like Derrick Henry, I know before, I think he's like one of the biggest examples of this. Like he projects still, like right now, is like a top 10 running back rest of the season in non-PPR, but like nowhere near that in a PPR. formats. It definitely does make a difference. I know our mind, Sam's always working PPR, but yeah, it's close. It's still, you still got to bench Michael Carter. He's literally not even the starting running back in a tough matchup. His floor is near 0 points in a PPR format.
I can also see a world where Jonathan Gannon gets all stupid and says he's not the starter. Bam Knight gets the first carry, and then it's Michael Carter the rest of the way. I could see him being that kind of person. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd go with Jacoby Myers. I don't know. I mean, well, to me, it boils down to who do you think has a better chance of scoring a touchdown, Michael Carter or Jacoby Myers, and that is about as tough as it gets. I don't know. Fun stat for this London game, by the way, before we get to another start sit,
Oh
is that the
gosh.
Broncos have almost as many sacks as Justin Fields has completions. The Broncos have 7 sacks. Justin Fields has 8 completions.
And they're winning now,
The
13-11.
Broncos just took the lead 13-11. I feel bad for all those London fans in the crowd
Oh
having to be
gosh.
subject to this monstrosity.
Dobbins
Always
up,
coming early.
Dobbins is up to 40 rushing yards here. There's only 3 minutes left in the game though, so that's not great. Brees Hall had 21 carries for 55 yards. Oh
Surprised it was
God.
that many.
My God. This is Justin Fields has 38 passing yards.
I can already see it now on the projection skull. We're going to say, oh, do we buy low on Garrett Wilson? And I'm going to say, no, we do not.
God.
We do not.
This is
Not
disgusting.
good.
Just a disgusting, disgusting game. Crazy
Well, the
stuff.
Jets are about to get the ball back. They just sacked Bo Nix on 3rd down. We'll see if they can salvage
I,
the day here.
I think in this starts that I pulled up, you got to bench Tedero McMillan. We're not benching Dowdle. We're not benching Drake London. I haven't seen many Drake London questions, but you cannot be benching Drake London against the Bills with no Darnell Mooney. Like, just can't be benching him. Oh, God, look where Tet ranks here
Yeah,
right now.
I feel like if we had seen that weather stuff a bit earlier, I don't think Tet ranks as highly in that scenario.
Yeah,
This one's pretty confident for me. I would bench Tet.
yeah. I'm refreshing the app here because I do think these projections have been updated a little bit. No, I still have 3. Yeah, I think I would agree. I would be benching Tedero McMillan, playing Dowdle, Rashad White, and Drake London. I think I would agree with that. Here, we got a Walter Pick subscriber here in the chat. Jam, shout out to you for doing the Walter Pick subscription. Best way you could possibly support us and the entire Walter Picks brand is doing the subscription. It's also the best way to give yourself the best chance in fantasy and with props. So do appreciate it. Jam, hopefully the subscription's working out well for you. Pollard or Haskins in a non-PPR league.
This is easy.
The rankings changed because I was in non-PPR. That's what was confusing me there for a second. But yeah, I think. Oh God, this one's gross. I don't feel
The
good about
receivers did
Pollard.
update there for Tet on the screen, but
Yeah.
I definitely I'm going Haskins. Better chance of scoring a touchdown than Pollard, in my opinion.
Oh man. Yeah, in a non-PPR league, that definitely benefits Haskins more than Pollard. I do think Tajay Spears, his role is only going to grow too. Yeah, we do have Haskins over Pollard non-PPR in the app as well. So yeah, I think I agree.
It's very close. It's marginal.
Yeah.
I don't. The Titans' running game is not. It's not good.
This is a
I
good
saw
one.
that question. I was worried you were going to bring it up, but here
This
we
is a
are.
good one to end on, Sam. This is a good one to end on here. We got Olamide Zaccheaus versus Flournoy. Gosh.
Good. Oh, they're right
Zaccheaus
next
is
to
like,
each other. They're right next to each other. 49 and 50, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, based on what we just saw
that
there.
was non-PPR though. Yeah, PPR Flournoy gets a slight edge here. Zaccheaus has been good. Like Zaccheaus is good as maybe stretch. He's been better, like had a bigger role, I think, than anyone really expected. A bigger role than maybe most people still realize. Had at least 4 points in every single game. Had at least 2 catches in every single game. He's just been straight up playing ahead of Luther Burden. I don't know if we can bank on that though out of the bye. I mean, I really, really would not be surprised to see Luther Burden's role like take a decent step forward here. They drafted him in the early second round of the draft. I know I really liked him as a prospect, Samps. I don't know if you liked him quite as much as I did. He had one really good college season. It was a little bit of a weird profile for Luther Burden. Then he falls out of the first round. Some people thought he should have been a first round pick, but he wasn't. Now he's like playing some type of gadget role really the first 4 or 5 games of the season. To me, he's still way more exciting though than Olamide Zaccheaus. And then you got Ryan Flournoy, who's like coming off a really, really good game last week in non-PPR. He had 18.4 points in non-PPR last year. Is that right? No, this is PPR that we're looking at here. But gosh, yeah, I think I would probably go Flournoy over Zaccheaus.
I think I'd go Zaccheaus because of the weather. That's really the tiebreak. It's point 0.1 difference. I
Yeah.
mean, in our app, I think I'd go. And I don't think that the Commanders pose a threat defensively. I really don't. At least in the secondary. Um, Hopefully, it's not one of those things where after the bye, they're like, yeah, we're getting Luther involved now, and OZ's taking a seat. But I think I'd go with OZ, and maybe it's just a mind game thing. But if I have a really close one between two, for lack of a better term, bums in fantasy terms, I like to scare my opponent with a Monday night guy instead of a 1 o'clock on Sunday guy.
Yeah, some mind games here from Sam's. I think
Yeah.
for me the weather report for the Cowboys game, it matters probably the least for Flournoy. Like let's look at his air yards really quick last week. I don't think he was really actually more than I expected. 86 air yards, way more than I expected, honestly. So maybe I'm not right. But I mean the deep passes are the ones that are affected the most by the wind. But Sam's is probably right. If the projection's this close and there's weather for one of these guys, but yeah, definitely some real risk with Zacchaeus as well. A gross one to end on here in the week 6 Sunday morning live. Samps, really appreciate you spending so much time on the live today. It was great having you on. Definitely will look to have you on at some point again later in the season. Got to try to join one of your lives at some point as
For
well.
sure.
No one is grind lives like Samps on the TikTok lives. Make sure you follow him, Falcons.WalterPicks on TikTok and on Instagram. Samps, hope you have a great week 6, man. Appreciate you hopping on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd love to be on soon. So just let me know when. I appreciate the time.
Sounds good. Have a good one, Samps. All right. That was Samps joining the live here on week 6. A lot of good insight from him. Honestly, it changed my opinion on a lot of things, which is exactly what we want from the guests. I think most notably, honestly, I'm more bullish on the Jaguars passing attack than before. I think a really good shout by Samps there. 3 injured players in the secondary, the starting lineup secondary for the Seahawks defense. So that's definitely very, very notable. Why should I bench Tet? Also, would you trade Tet and Garrett for Monbrow? I probably would do that trade. And you don't need to bench Tet in a lot of situations, but he's playing in a game with 30 plus mile an hour winds and rain. 30 plus mile an hour winds and rain. We don't want to start Michael Carter or Bam. Neither of these guys are starts. Bam, though, is the better start over Michael Carter. Playing Kincaid over Barner, yeah. All right, YouTube Live. That's my time. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Time is the most valuable thing we have, so appreciate you spending some time with me on this live stream. Good luck, everyone, in week 6. We'll be back live on Sunday morning. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We're posting tons of content every week on the YouTube. We got 3 live streams every week on the YouTube channel as well. And if I didn't get to your start sit, I do apologize. I'm trying to get to as many as I can. But we also built the Walter Picks app to help you crush your start sit decisions. So make sure you get the start sit decision research done in the app as well if I didn't get to it. Do appreciate you guys, and good luck, everybody.